Oops, wait, that's the wrong setup. This is the right setup. Hello. How's it going? How is everyone? Wait, let's see if chat's working. Yeah, chat should be working. There we go. Chat's working. Hi. Good morning. Hello. I'm not that late. I'm only like 10 minutes late this time. So today, we are gonna do, we're gonna work on, I think we're gonna work on some stuff for the dating sim. I think we're gonna draw a bit. I'll show you what we're gonna work on. So, okay. Let's see. So I've got stuff for us to work on. I want to make more progress on this, the little like character sheet landing page, character landing page for her, slash us continuing to make the template for it. I have a few little drawings that I need to like add. I've got, where are they? Oh, they're just hiding. What the hell? Where did I want them? Oh my god. Okay, so I've got these two little drawings still. I have one of them more completed. The issue is I totally forgot how I decided to shade the last one. So this is the more drawn. As you can tell, the shading. I have this is the other one that I drew, like the actually drawn out version, but I cannot for the life of me remember what colors I used for the fucking shading, so we're gonna have to figure that out together. I like mapped out where I want the shading, but I can't. I'm like, which blend mode did I use? What opacity? What color was it? This is why I'm always like beating myself for blending my shading and highlight layers, but like I have to because this is an iPad Air and it's just, it only has so much storage. Anyway, so we're gonna figure that out together so we can put another little thing in there. But yeah, I want to work on that, and then I want to, if we have time, we can work on this guy. I don't know if we'll have time. This is just me like kind of mapping out. I'll show you closer. This is just me kind of mapping out the colors. It's not like actually drawn. This is just still the sketch, but I was kind of just like mapping out where I was thinking colors would kind of go, because I wanted to switch up the color palette slightly to make it a little more interesting. So I added a bit of orange. I made his eyes a little more like purple tinge. Then I added a blue tie, and I made the vest brighter. So yeah, yeah, so we're gonna just work on some of that stuff, you know? We gonna work on some of that. So that's my plan. I think we'll probably start, let's start with the one I almost have finished. We'll start with this bitch, I think, and then we can move on to the character sheet, and I'll do the other one some other time. And yeah, I don't know what's up with the crowns. It's fun though. I like it. Hell yeah. No, I did it off of stream is the problem, so I don't remember how I shaded it. And like I can't watch the replay because like that doesn't tell me like what the opacity or blend mode was, so we're just gonna have to try our best here. We'll figure it out. But anyway, there's a leaderboard ranking. A leaderboard ranking? What is it for? Wait. Oh, I see it. Community. Oh. Fun. What do you get XP from? Oh, question. Okay. Community leaderboard and XP. What's the leaderboard? A place for fans to stand out in the community. The top 3 get special badges in live chat. It resets every stream, so you can always try again. How do you get on the leaderboard? You'll need to collect experience points or XP. Here's how you get them. Send live chat messages, send super chats, and super stickers. Fun. All right, YouTube has gamified chat for you guys. Enjoy. YouTube is like, listen, we're a competitor for streaming. We promise. We're not terrible. Can I give a name to my entire content creation? It seems all over the place. Weren't I streaming animal? So for YouTube is literally just whatever the fuck I feel like, basically. YouTube is kind of like hanging out behind the scenes, gaming, working on cosplays, doing anything else that I kind of feel like doing that's safe for work, that doesn't really feel like it goes on my not safe for work content pages. But like my main content is porn. My main content is porn. So like anything that's posted to TikTok, anything that's posted to Instagram, anything that's posted to Twitter or YouTube or anything not posted to Fansly is essentially just either promotion for Fansly, behind the scenes of Fansly, or just what I'm doing on days that I'm not working on Fansly. So it's yeah. Everything else is just me shit posting, really. I can definitely say porn on here. Yeah, I can definitely say it on here. Let's go! We got a little bun grab. I love those. So cute. Let's go. Thanks, chat. You're taller. No. Your voice is not femboy's voice. Okay, what exactly is a femboy's voice exactly? What? That doesn't that doesn't make sense. There's not a set voice. Every femboy I know has a different voice. Are you good? They don't all share a voice, my guy. Like, half the femboys I know have a higher pitched voice than me, and then the other half are like Polish and have like the deepest voice humanly possible. And you're like, sorry, is that you talking right now? No, this is completely legal here and I'm 30. So YouTube doesn't have a problem. It's fully legal. Now, if I was smoking a cigarette, they might have an issue, but no, my streams are marked. I am. I've been feeling good. A little sleepy, but I've been kind of fixing my sleep schedule-ish. So it's improving. Also, there has been a million updates in the Diddy trial. There has been so many Queen videos. We need to watch some today. We'll probably watch one during this stream. We'll probably watch one during Teddy's stream. All right, so we're gonna, I don't remember which one we left off on. We'll look. But we're probably gonna watch one for this stream and the next stream, because, like, she is literally posting, like, dude, like, the last 2 days there has been 2 major ones. She also posted a TikTok yesterday that I'm gonna have us watch first, just because, like, it will get you excited for what's to come in the upcoming videos we'll have to watch for her to catch up. But, like, I just want to show you the TikTok that she YouTube short she posted yesterday about an update. I literally saw the TikTok YouTube short. I saw it like 45 minutes after she posted it. Crazy. Anyway, so we're gonna watch some of that. Oh yeah, I saw that, Lemon. I saw that. So, what about playing some games on stream? You can watch me on Twitch later. We're gonna be gaming later tonight on Twitch, but for here, we're gonna be trying to be a little productive today, just because I'm gonna be streaming all day, and if I stream all day, I'm gonna run out of things to do in Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Like, there's only so much I can do in a day, unfortunately. So we're gonna be doing that later. Yes, we're gonna be streaming on here. Wait, let me get my times up, because I'm still not used to my new schedule yet. Hold up. Which, speaking of which, I need to, whatever. Okay, so, every Friday, for the foreseeable future, this is gonna be my current schedule. I'm hoping it'll work out well for me and everyone else. I'm lumping most of my streams, all of my safe for work streams, will be on Friday from here on out. All of my not safe for work, well, no. My main not safe for work stream will be on Mondays. So that way you get a little bit of a different option here. So YouTube stream every Friday from 11 a.m. until 1:30 p.m. Not the longest stream, but we're gonna hang out and make the most of it. Then I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, taking a half an hour break. My next stream will be on Teddy Chan's account. That's my VTuber. If you haven't followed her, you should. She just made a Fansly, and there will be stuff on there soon. If you're into girl content and you want that kind of thing, or you like anime girls, that's where you should go for that. And she's gonna be streaming from 2 o'clock until 4:30, and this is all in Pacific time, by the way. And then my Twitch stream, I'm gonna have an hour break in between those streams so I can get like a little more dressed up and stuff, and then promote my secret stream, which will be on Fansly tonight at the same time as the Twitch stream. So I suggest pulling up both streams. I haven't sent out a message about it yet, but I will probably either in between the Teddy Chan streams or in between the Twitch one and the Teddy one. I have to like cook dinner for my fiance. He just got like his teeth removed. He had his wisdom teeth removed, and so I have to take care of him a little bit, so I'm having to like juggle that in between streaming today, but it's okay. So I'm gonna have to go run to the store in between this stream and the next one, and I also have to promote the Fansly stream, so I probably won't send out the little like promo card until in between the next streams, just because like it's gonna take a minute. Yeah, and so then the Twitch stream will be from 5:30 until 9 o'clock. At the same time, I will be doing a secret Fansly stream, so if you want to watch Below Desk, that will be the one you want to watch. If you want to see face cam and game with me while I struggle, that will be the Twitch stream, alright? And you have to be very secret about it. You cannot snitch. That's illegal. The secret police will come for you. It'll be fun. It'll be good. So that's yeah, and it'll be free to watch, by the way. It'll be free to watch. You just I might set do I set it for I would set it for followers only, but it's actually been working out okay not having it set to followers only the last few times. Like, there's been like one or two annoying people, but honestly not the end of the world, so I think that's okay. I think that's okay. It's totally manageable. So, yeah. See, I'm joking about the secret police. However, fucking ICE has just been like all over goddamn Washington recently, and it's just... I don't know why they're coming to the places that they know they're gonna just get like absolutely mogged, but... Oh, also, I found out that it's not the Pride Parade tomorrow, it's Pride in the Park tomorrow. So, Pride in the Park is on Saturday, and then actual Pride is at like it normally is at the end of the month, but it will be the day after our private stream, so it won't interact, so we're good. I had to like triple check that because I was like, oh shit, that's the same weekend. But we're good, we're good. So yeah, Pride in the Park tomorrow. Don't know if I'm going, considering my fiance is just had his wisdom teeth out, but I don't know, it'll be fun either way. So yeah, this stream will be until 1:30. Help me keep track of time, by the way, because it'll be and then Teddy Chan's stream, we're gonna do some more art over there. We're gonna draw her a bit, and then we're gonna do the Twitch stream, and we're gonna play Hello Kitty Island Adventure. It'll be fun. Best game ever. All right. Also, let me move my mic so it's closer. I'm so sorry. Here, actually, let me mute it so you don't get demolished here. Okay, I'm back. That hopefully is a little better. Hopefully. But yes. I will watch chat. Okay, I'm gonna watch chat. Alright, so let me get this pulled up and then I will start a Queen video and we can listen to that and figure out what the fuck's going on with this. If it will cooperate. Oh, kitten eating food. It's kitten time. Hey, Soul, back off that kitten. Back off that little kitten. Leave that tiny kitten alone. He's a baby. He's just a little bit. So that's a baby. You have to back off the baby. Back off of the baby. No, back off of the. Nope. Back off the baby. Evil. You gotta stay away from that tiny kitten. He's a baby. He'll bop you. Yeah, he will bop you. My real name is Indigo. This is my real name. Evil kitty. Soul. That's not your food. Soul. That's not your food. It's not yours. Oh my god, they're crazy. Alright, here, let me get this pulled up. Let me figure out. Oh wait, no, I don't. I know I can play it off the computer. I forgot. I keep forgetting this is an option. I'm not gonna have it on the screen just cause too much happening on the screen, you know? Yeah. But I will link you. Okay. Now, which was the last one we fucking watched? Did we watch The Daughters Walk Out? Shit, which was the last one we watched, chat? We only watched the first two, that's what I thought. Okay, so it's The Daughters Walking Out is the next one, right? I don't stream on TikTok, no. Really, Munchie? What's happening for you, kitten? Why are you screaming? Why are you screaming? He's crazy! He's a wild kitten! Oh my god. Bruh. How'd you crack your jaw? That's crazy. I've never cracked my jaw before. Now I want to. Are you crazy? Are you a wild kitten? What are you doing? Are you scary? She says she's scared of the kitty. That a scary kitty? She being crazy? What is happening in chat? Okay, I'm just gonna ignore chat. I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna assume it was the daughter's walk out, so let's watch that one. Let me know how the volume is.
Bada bing, bada boo.
There is one person in the courtroom that is probably having a worse day than Sean Combs.
I'm gonna put the timer up first before I actually start it. Okay, there's the timer. Hey, kitty. Hey, kitty. Have you been fucking chewing on this? Are you kidding me, dude? Get the fuck out of here. Can you stop chewing on everything? What is wrong with you? Oh my god. Damn, that's crazy. Oh, this is the one we watched in the private stream? Okay, thank you. I did name him Munchie. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we watched this one on the private stream. Never mind, we'll watch the Cassie's husband one next then. Thank you. I could not remember if we had watched more or not. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna watch this one. We're watching this one. Never mind. So sorry, chat. I lied to you. I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now this one. All right. And then we got the timer here. Let me put the title up. Oh wait, actually I do have a reaction. Or not a react. I already have a fucking YouTube video set up. Actually, never mind. I'm not doing the timer. I'm just gonna play it with you guys. Fuck it. That actually makes my life easier. Okay, let's watch this. If it... There we go. Haha. How's the volume?
Sometimes there's a lot that happens when the jurors are not in the courtroom. Like the fact that there is a fight to decide whether or not Cassie can have her husband in the courtroom being her emotional support.
Cool.
The defense attorney, Anna Esteveo, says,
now let's figure out how to do this.
Ventura's husband, Alex Vine, may be present in the courtroom, and we expect him to be a potential defense witness. So we would ask that he be excluded. Which makes sense if he's also going to be on the witness stand. He should not be listening to another witness who also happens to be his wife and the mother of his soon-to-be 3 children.
I think that's fair.
That makes sense. However, prosecutor Emily Johnson states
why is he a
more
witness?
or less, no, that doesn't make sense at all. We were advised of this approximately 10 minutes ago. He's not included on the defense witness list. Ms. Ventura's husband is here with his family to support his wife and testify publicly. We had, under the CBRA, she has the right to be treated with dignity and privacy, and she would like support in this courtroom as she testifies. To which lead defense attorney Tenny Garagos even states, if I could just elaborate, what we have given the government is a witness list for our case in chief. The reasons are important because at this time, we can't really tell Your Honor who we know we would call. At this time, we can't say who definitely would call, and we certainly, the judge asks, wait, why wasn't this raised before this morning when he's here with his entire family inside this courthouse?
Wait, so he's already in the courthouse and they're debating to kick him out?
Yes, he's in the courthouse waiting to come into the courtroom when Cassie comes in to testify. Cassie's brother is here, so is her cousin. Your Honor, I apologize. I brought this up to Miss Comey, but not Miss Johnson yesterday. This is my fault.
So weird they want to kick him out.
And then I didn't follow up on it last night. I apologize. We're not looking to not have her support people.
Okay.
Her brother is here, who was around all the while in their relationship, and we have our application, Your Honor, is that Miss Ventura's husband not be in the courtroom under Rule 615. Rule 615 is basically the don't be listening if you're going to talk rule. The rule provides courts with the authority to exclude witnesses from the courtroom to prevent them from hearing other witnesses' testimonies. I mean, the whole point being, it's to prevent witnesses from tailoring their testimony based on what they hear from other witnesses. So, for example, if everybody saw the defendant, this is not about Combs, just like a hypothetical defendant, if they saw him kick a koala, then it would be unfair for the group of people to hear each other testify about how he kicked them, what he said after he kicked the koala, and then they all testify.
I mean, there's a drawing behind.
Another thing that the defense points out is that Cassie's husband, at one point, did send a threatening message to the defendant, Combs. When Cassie and Combs were in the midst of their breakup, he sent, quote, several very threatening text messages to our client saying that he would like to beat the F word out of his old... Just several words that I will not repeat on the record. There are several threatening messages that
Cassie's
my client received
I feel
that we
like
got in discovery
the
from the
most
government.
frustrating part of the trial so far.
List, of course.
Not that her statement is frustrating, but the
case in chief.
But
there are several potential witnesses that, depending on how the government's case comes in, we would have to put on in our case in chief, basically saying, depending on how the government handles this direct examination of Cassie Ventura, they might
Thank you, Queen.
come in with
the direct examination is
testify.
Okay.
Frustrating.
The government is
because they don't do it very well. Like, the prosecution does not do a good job for her, and then the defense is kind of on their game.
About an alleged rape that occurred between Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura. But we're open to having that dialogue, and we would ask that Miss Ventura be allowed to have her support. Her people, including her husband, here in this courtroom. She has various rights under the Crimes Victim Rights Act, and we would ask that he be allowed to be present. And this is happening the morning that Cassie's to testify. So she's in the courthouse, and they're arguing whether or not her husband be allowed in. The defense, they do something interesting, though, because once Rule 16 is invoked, I mean, there's really nothing you can do about it. Once it's invoked, it's mandatory. You can't let him be in the courtroom. However, the defense, they come in swinging. They're like, no, we might call him on the defense witness list. He can't be in the courtroom. And then later, they pull back a little bit, and they state, we understand she would like her support people. If he wants to come into the courtroom today before we talk about the 2018 time period, we are fine with him remaining in the courtroom until then. We would just ask that he be excluded once we get into that time period. Eventually, it is agreed upon by the parties that Alex Fine, Cassie's husband, will only be removed for that particular part of Cassie's testimony.
Oh, I hate
when I do this. And it's hard to say what the real reason is
when I do this
on
to myself.
why the defense
Why do I do this
perhaps
to
do
myself?
not want Alex
I need to keep an actual color palette when I'm working on things.
I don't know. I mean, who could say, right? It could very much be that they're going to call him up as a witness, or it could also be the fact that from the moment that Alex Fine walks into that courtroom, because I was sitting behind him for most of the testimony days of Cassie, like directly behind him. Like literally right in front of him. If I lean my head forward because the pews are kind of smashed together, I would headbutt his back.
Wow.
The whole time when he walked in, he had his head held high, his chest out, and he stared a lot at Sean Combs and all of his family members.
Weird.
And let's just say, I personally would not want to be on the receiving end of that kind of stare.
Oh yeah, I was gonna show you guys the, well, now we'll watch this first. I'll show you it after.
We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the Joyful Heart Foundation. They are working to transform society's response to SADV, CA, and support survivors healing with resources. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and also just us all being in New York and going to court every day. We'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. A few disclaimers before we get started. Regarding content, there are themes of DV, SA, and sex trafficking. Please watch with caution. This episode's going to be a lot heavier than the recent one, so please take a break if you need to. Many of the quotes and the statements included have been shortened and or moved around and or condensed for brevity and clarity. However, this week's testimony was impossible to shrink into a standalone episode, so this is going to be a two-parter. In the first part, we're going to covering the direct, and then one part covering the cross-examination. And it's going to be questioning of the same defense, but I think there has been a lot of talks about the direct and the cross, and I also feel like there's a lot of things that are not being talked about that were, I thought, key moments. Now, speaking of the legality of things, Sean Combs is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This burden of proof is the responsibility of the prosecution, and all the crimes that he has been charged with are alleged until a verdict is reached. Any descriptions or observations regarding Mr. Combs, his legal team, the court, and or the public during the trial were personally noted by myself or my two other researchers who were present in the courtroom. They should not be used as definitive source to
weird to me how some people are
mad
that she's covering this
about someone. I do want to make some clarifications for the last episode. I did see some comments that informed me that the giggling in the courtroom when Sean Combs told a male escort that he was in the import and exporting business is a Seinfeld reference. So that's why people were giggling, and someone comments, total insanity that Diddy was quoting that, but also very on brand. The cross-examinations from the defense team is, someone comments, is giving that he wanted to pull Legally Blonde, but the witness did not fail to keep his story straight. So there were lots of Seinfeld, there were lots of Legally Blonde references, and also, I was absorbed in the comment section of the last video because there's a good amount of people either in law school or attorneys already that were giving me Diddy defenders, actually. It's why perhaps
people
Donald
that think that she's like not a good enough journalist to be covering
and
this.
I thought some of them were correct. So if you guys are interested and like need some closure on that, go check out the comments than anyone else is doing. But with that being said, Judge Arun is seated on the bench. He's at the very front of the courtroom. I have a courtroom sketch for you guys. Okay, so I am on the third to last pew on the back right side. Alex Fine, Cassie's brother, Cassie's cousin, as well as Cassie's legal attorney and like two of his fellow attorneys are also in the row in front of us. And then in front of them are government attorneys. So there's prosecutors that are not working the case.
So all of Cassie's attorney, the whole team is right in front of you. Right. You're looking at them.
Yes, and every time Cassie takes a break or if we have a recess or if there's lunch, they will walk out with Cassie. And then they'll walk back in with Cassie, and they're literally right in front of me. Yeah. So the Judge Arun is asking, is the government ready to call their next witness? Yes, Your Honor. The government calls Cassandra Ventura. This is the first time since 2018 that Cassie and Sean Combs are seeing each other face to face out of one of the double doors from behind where we're sitting. The door opens and in walks Cassie. She's wearing the long brown dress that you've probably seen pictures of her in already, and there is so much tension in that moment. The main thing that I oddly recall in what I wrote down is the noise. Yes, I'm like visually seeing everything, and I'm visually like trying to analyze everybody's faces, but for some reason the only thing that stands out in my recollection of that moment in my memory is that it's the noise, like the sound of the door opening and the sound of her walking on the carpet, because I felt like it was that quiet.
Wow.
It was just so intense. She does not look at anyone when she walks in. She keeps her eyes glued to the front, but it's not like she's holding her chin down. She's not looking down. Her shoulders are back. Her stomach is like 2 watermelons. I mean, she's heavily pregnant. I don't even know how she's walking and not waddling.
She's like, what, 8.5 months?
Yeah. Additionally, when she sits at the witness stand, she has to lean in at times to speak into the microphone, which I'm sure just cannot be comfortable. She walks in, sits at the witness stand, and Combs, from my perception, is statuesque. And maybe it's in my head, but he feels more frozen than normal. and it doesn't even feel intentional. Because I think previously it felt like it seems like he's trying to not give reactions, he's trying to be as still as possible, but this feels very naturally still. And when she walks in, like the whole time that she's walking down the aisle past us, like everybody's body is pivoting towards Cassie as she's walking. So our whole bodies are moving with her. Same as Sean Combs. He's watching her walk down the entire length of the courtroom. She does not look at him. And she sits down. And I obviously listened to a ton of interviews of Cassie when I was doing like my 8-hour Did He Arrest series last year. Her voice was raspier when she was younger. Perhaps it was her environment.
I know, like there's a recipe of restraint that I keep when I do a record.
Her voice is actually really soft, which I know some people are gonna be like, oh my God, she's faking it. But it didn't feel like that. She didn't sound like she was trying to sound meek and like so soft. It just sounded like she was very calm initially. Nervous, but calm. And I wrote down in my notes, because I heard, which we're not supposed to be talking in the courtroom. We're not supposed to be responding to evidence. We're not supposed to be having any sort of conversations. But I do hear someone whisper behind me, she's so beautiful. Prosecutor Johnson, who does the opening statement, she takes the podium right next to the jurors. She's blonde, it's a bob, I love it, she looks good. She looks at Cassie, and I will say the two of them, I'm sure they've seen each other countless times by this point, and again, maybe I'm overthinking things, but I thought maybe this is why Johnson did the opening statement, because when I was doing that recap episode for you guys, I like shortened and condensed that opening statement and like pulled the parts that I felt were the most emotional, but in the courtroom, I think it was like an hour long of an opening statement, and the cadence was a lot slower. So there were a lot of people that were in the courtroom that were slightly confused on why she was the one that did the opening statement. But that day, I'm like, okay, maybe this is why.
And they're having to change hotels
because
like every other day.
I interpreted it. Cassie is looking at Prosecutor Johnson, and she looks
for safety.
Very safe looking at her. She's not really looking at many other people. She's either looking at Prosecutor Johnson or her family, who is right behind Prosecutor Johnson, sitting in the pews, and then I'm like right behind them. So, I mean, not that she's looking at me, but you get it. Like, I'm just giving you an idea of where we are. And she doesn't, she just stares at Prosecutor Johnson, and she looks like she's more at ease when she's looking at her. So she keeps leaning in to talk into the microphone, very pregnant. At a sidebar, lead prosecutor Comey even brings up to the judge, this witness is very, very pregnant. We are afraid she could have the baby over the weekend. We want her off the stand before the weekend. So it's that big of an issue. At times, Cassie's kind of supporting her belly. She doesn't really try to draw attention to the fact that she's pregnant. She's not like rubbing her belly, trying to gain sympathy. Not that I think that's a thing that someone would do, but she just seems uncomfortable. She's like trying to move, put her hands under her belly to maybe support it up, or put her hands on her hips. There's a box of tissues next to her.
And how many hours you say she was sitting there in that position?
I mean, it's like
hours at a time.
So
right?
it's,
what are you doing, kitty?
The jurors come in. Judge Arun really tries to do 9:30 to 5. It's like a 30-minute lunch, and then maybe a handful of 10-minute breaks, like maybe 3 10-minute breaks.
And she's sitting on this wooden bench for majority of the day.
Well, I think it has some cushions, that one.
Oh, okay.
But still very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable and very cold. Everyone in the courtroom is cold, and she looked cold as well. And it's just so silent. You can hear the sketch artist.
We're going to be streaming on here until 1:30.
Posters.
My time
Cassie,
is currently 11:49.
She is 38 years old now. She was in an on and off relationship with Combs for a little over 11 years. She ends up signing to his label, Bad Boy Records, which notably, if you remember Notorious Big, Biggie was signed with Bad Boy Records before his murder. We're going to get there. Cassie states that she signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records. She releases one album in 2006 and then never releases another album again. Furthermore, Cassie states that she was in a platonic friendship with Combs when she signed him, and it wasn't until her 21st birthday that things start getting intimate. Side note, they are 17 years apart regardless. She says they go to Vegas to celebrate her 21st birthday, and that's when she's explaining, he kissed me in the bathroom of his actual suite pretty early in the morning. We had been up, all of us, pretty late. And that's kind of how she is for majority of her testimony. She looks very genuine in her thought, is the perception that I had. And obviously, I think I went in with biases, but she just, when she's asked a question, she looks like she's getting into that moment. She's like lost in that moment. It doesn't seem like she's stuttering of like, oh, I don't know, actually. It just seems like she's in that moment and just trying to say, yeah, that's what happened, basically. That was kind of her energy throughout. She says that she was really confused whilst Combe is just like scribbling down notes. So there's like a few different modes that Sean Combs took during Cassie's testimony. He's either very stoic, very statuesque, or there are moments where it feels like he's intensely staring at her. He could be staring at the evidence screen intensely, he could be staring at the judge intensely, but it did feel like he was staring at her intensely at certain points. Or he's like just scribbling notes. Because, I mean, they're preparing for their cross-examination. So everything she says right now is very important for the defense team. And I thought it was very interesting because Mark Agnifilo, the lead attorney, he's taken a lot of notes. But Sean Combs is taking a lot of notes. And I thought about it and I was like, you know, that makes sense because he doesn't strike me as the type of person that will let the lawyers just do their jobs. Nope. He strikes me as the type of person that is trying to be an equal part of the team, that is giving his input, that's giving his advice on the strategies. And Mark Agnifilo, he's also two modes throughout all of this. He's either like furiously writing on his legal pad or he's like leaned back in his chair like he's watching a movie. Like, it's two modes. It's either like just passively viewing or just furiously taking notes. I think I was just really confused at the time. Again, young new artist, like just really didn't know the lay of the land when it came to things like that. So in my confusion, I just kind of cried and ran out. So she said that they kissed in the bathroom, she cries, and she runs out because she's not used to any of this before. She doesn't even understand it. This is the executive, the owner of Bad Boy Records, the label that she's just signed with. She says, yeah, I mean, I was pretty naive, I would say. I think the part that made it a little more confusing, maybe, to add some context, is that Combs was in a public relationship with Kim Porter at the time, and Cassie was publicly dating a producer named Leslie. Cassie says she did not want to kiss Combs, not in that moment. But eventually they come back to New York and they start hanging out more. He was getting his apartment renovated, so she would meet him up at the hotel that he was staying at, which was, interestingly enough, the Trump Hotel in New York City.
Yes.
There's always been conversations happening about the connection between Diddy and Trump. But Cassie says, even the first time she was invited to the Trump Hotel,
none of this is going to impact him.
The feeling as, I mean,
he probably is taking notes on like, okay, this person's on my hit list, this person's on my hit list.
Excitement, of course, and okay, we're gonna talk about music or we're gonna talk about what's next. I think it's a lot of, in that time period that's just kind of hazy because it was a while ago, but just nervous.
Ooh, and you gonna dog sit this weekend?
A while later, she elaborates on the hotel visits, and this is all the while, Combs, Agnifilo, scribbling in their notepads. I think it was nervous excitement. It also just made me feel sneaky. I didn't know. I was curious, but of course I ended up here and wanted to be like around him. So that was just kind of it. I was like, okay, I'm here. Leaving, it was just always confusing because I really didn't know what I felt. I felt like I didn't know what I knew, that I was making decisions for myself or not. I feel like I was just like, here I am. I don't know how to explain that. But through the hotel meetups of them just talking about these projects, they start developing a lot more comfortable relationship with each other. And then, quote, I remember being introduced to the idea of oral sex. It wasn't something that I really understood or did at that point, and he basically taught me how. So that's when the relationship starts turning intimate. Cassie says she becomes one of his girlfriends. And at the time, she didn't even know. It wasn't really confirmed per se, but they were always spending intimate time together, so she assumed that they're boyfriend and girlfriend, yes. But they never went public about it because, quote, it was always just a discussion of me being his artist and not wanting it to look bad. But I also know it was because of his family and his children and other things that were personal for him. He's also publicly linked with Kim Porter around this time. Kim Porter being one of the mothers of his children, 3 of his 7 children. Well, actually, technically 4 because of Quincy.
Right.
Yeah, so that's interesting because Quincy is Kim Porter and Albie Shore's son that Diddy claims he's adopted. Albie Shore denies that he's not been adopted by Diddy. And then Christian King Combs, and then you've got the twins. Okay. So technically 4 of the 7. And they start showing pictures of Cassie and Sean just to establish their relationship. Miss Ventura, directing your attention to the screen in front of you, do you recognize who's depicted in that still image? Yes, that's me and Sean. They're establishing the relationship, and these are pictures that you can Google from them on red carpets. Like, there are some more private photos, but nothing alarming, nothing salacious, nothing mind-blowing, just pictures of them hanging out with friends. And this is when I noticed something very interesting. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm thinking too deep into it. My researcher right next to me is like, no, you're not, because she took the exact same notes, and we're not looking at each other's notes in the courtroom. We're not talking, we're not allowed to, right? But when we came out, it was interesting. So when there were pictures of just Cassie on the exhibit screen, which is to the right of Alex Fine. So we all kind of, Cassie is directly in front of Alex Fine. And then Diddy, you kind of have to pivot a little to the left, or your eyes can pivot, but you know, your head can pivot. And then you can pivot to the right and you see this TV that shows the exhibits. When there were pictures of just Cassie and maybe like Cassie and a girlfriend of hers, it seems like he would look at the screen. He would look at the exhibit. When it was a picture of Cassie and Sean Combs on the screen, I did not see him pivot any of the times. He's just looking straight at his wife. He will not look at those pictures. And those pictures are not salacious. They're like red carpet pictures, right? He won't look at them. But then, when there's pictures of abuse, he will look at them. And not only did we notice and perceive that he looks at the evidence of the pictures that show the abuse, like bruising, he will look at it, and then we saw him look and glare at Combs, the defendant, and the family.
Valid.
Yeah. So it's like when it was Cassie, he would look, and then he would look back at his wife. When it's Cassie and Diddy, he's just eyes fixated on his wife on the stand. And then when it's the abuse, he will look, and then he won't look at his wife. He will stare down the defendant and the family members. And this is like multiple days too.
That's so
And
funny.
what's crazy is they're looking back.
Oh, really? They're making strong eye contact?
At one point, and like at the risk of sounding super dramatic, Janice Combs is a very intense woman. She's very tiny. She's a short little lady,
That's
okay?
Sean Combs' mom.
Yes, this is Sean Combs' mom. She comes in like
Who there has been
a
some
lot of
weird rumors
people
about
I did overhear hallway talk
recently.
of
Oh my
her choice
god.
of wigs.
I
You
don't
know,
think
she'll
I've
come in,
seen.
big old sunglasses, like just kind of interesting outfits, and she's like
There's some
tiny little
disgusting-
lady, but she is
Disgusting rumors.
terrifying in my opinion. There's something about her that is so terrifying. So there's this moment where Janice Combs, Sean Combs' mom, I thought she was side-eyeing me. Not that I am anybody, but like just because I look over there, she's 2 rows ahead of us, but on the left side. So diagonally 2 rows. But for Alex Fine, she's only 1 row ahead, right?
Yeah.
And I see her, and she's like, her head is still towards the front of the courtroom.
Girl, I don't
but
know, it
her
could be you.
eyes are peeking over her sunglasses, and it is the most intense side eye I've ever seen from anybody. And I was thinking, what did I do? Like, did I accidentally bump into her at the restroom? She was not looking at me. She was looking at Alex Fine. And she held that glare for, oh my God, it was the longest glare ever.
Really? Was
Bruh.
it Alex aware of that glare, or?
I don't think so. But it was
so
a
weird.
really long glare. Just so intense. And with that, there are a lot of things that have gone viral
it's
now
worse.
with the direct questioning
It's
or the
worse
direct
than just the nail
examination by
polish.
Prosecutor Johnson.
So yes, there is the nail
So she's
polish. She wears the
standing at
nail
the podium.
polish
Ms.
that
Ventura,
Diddy
do
would
you
make
recognize
Cassie
who is
and everyone
depicted in
else that he'd do
Government Exhibit
freakoffs with
2A
wear the white nail
501?
polish. The same
Yes.
nail polish his
Who is
attorney
it?
is wearing.
Scott Mescudi?
On top of
Kid
it,
Cudi,
there
as
is
people
footage
know
of him and his
We
mom
dated
doing
in
IV drips
2011.
and
We
the other
worked
things
together
that
for a
he
brief
would
period.
have Cassie do
Cassie
after
says that when
freakoffs
they were
as
dating
like
in 2011,
recovery.
she did not tell Sean
And then the
Combs,
third
but he
thing
did
is
find
there's
out.
a rumor going
How did
around
he
that she
find
would
out?
collect
He actually
Diddy's
found out during a
jizz
freak-off in
as
LA.
a child
He went through
and
my
then
phone,
put
and
it
I believe he
as a
saw
topping
emails
on
between
mac
me
and cheese and
one
feed it
of
to people.
Scott's staff members. It was about bringing my toiletry bag to my house or something like that the next day. What was his reaction after he saw those emails? I just remember him putting like a wine bottle opener between his fingers and like lunging at me. His eyes were blacked out, super angry, and I just had to get out of there. It was actually another time that I was able to get out of a freak off.
Disgusting.
She runs away to another hotel, gets her burner phone. So she's got a burner phone so that she can call Scott. Eventually, he picks her up. She's saying, this whole situation is not going to be resolved if I just keep running away. She's like, I gotta go and just explain to Sean what's going on. Like, we were on a break. Maybe we're moving on. maybe we're all moving on, you know? And it's not like he's not seeing other people. She says, when I arrived at his house, that was the house where his bedroom was on like the top floor. It's this massive mansion in LA. So I went into his room and he was irate. He was just so angry. And when I was in the room, he told me about the videos that he had, that he was going to release of me and how he was going to hurt Scott and I. So that was all said there. And then I just ultimately left. When I was leaving, I was more than ready to go. Sean, kicked me in the back on my way out. So I just had a big bruise on my back. I fell to the floor and yeah, and then left. I had a large bruise on my back. The day is fuzzy, but I had bruises in other places on my body. I just remember that one significantly because he literally kicked me with the bottom of his foot in my back. When she goes back to the hotel room, it is trashed. She doesn't know, but it seems like allegedly that one of Sean Combs's guards, maybe himself, maybe one of his accomplices, I don't know, trashed the hotel room. She says it was just torn up. There was somebody peed all over the floor in the bathroom. My clothes were everywhere. All the furniture was turned upside down. Somebody pooped in the toilet and didn't flush it. It was just gross.
Ew.
So she gets another hotel room with Scott, and that's when she sends an email to her mom and Scott just in case as a record. It reads, threats. The threats that have been made towards me by Sean Puffy Combs are that he is going to release 2 explicit sex tapes of me. One on Christmas Day, maybe before or right after, and another one sometime soon after that. He has also said that he will be having someone hurt me and Scott Mescudi physically. He made a point that it wouldn't be by his hands. He actually said he'd be out of the country when it happened.
Wow.
Soon after that, Cassie flies home to Connecticut to be with her mom, and within hours, her mom is taking pictures of her giant bruises on her back because she's like, no, something's not right. You abruptly fly to Connecticut, and now, like, what happened? I'm sure her mom has like a sixth sense. This is her daughter. Cassie tells her mom that, no, this is the first time that Sean Combs has ever been abusive. She says, I just wasn't ready.
Right?
But I was also
It's just
terrified.
disgusting.
Because the prosecutor is asking, why didn't you just tell her the truth?
Why would you do that?
Like, that this has been going on for so long. Like, it's not normal. What's not normal? Just constantly being bruised up by the person that you love or that says they love you. Like, you can't justify it to anyone, just especially not your mom. At that point, Cassie requests that Scott and her break up. At this point in the testimony, Cassie requests a break. And so she walks out abruptly. Her husband is also following her out. Now, I will say that Alex Fine the whole time, he doesn't look happy, especially when he's looking in the general direction of where the defendant and the defendant's family are sitting. I would not even say that he looks stoic or neutral. He looks kind of pissed. But when he's walking out after Cassie requests a break, he looked like he was like ready to burn the world down for her.
Really?
Yeah, he looked very upset. But in like a protective way. It didn't just look like he's like, I'm so angry, you know? It just, he seemed very upset. Like, I think he's upset at the fact that his wife is going through this. After that break, Cassie comes back to tell the court that in Connecticut, because Kid Cudi had come to Connecticut with her, she just wanted to break it up with him. She said it was too much danger, too much uncertainty of what could happen if they kept seeing each other. When you say danger, what specific danger were you worried about? I mean, Sean said to me before I left LA that he was going to hurt the both of us. And I at least took that in my mind, like, if I stay in this situation, we both will be hurt. If I don't, no one will be. He mentioned that when we were out of the country, that Scott's car would be blown up. He wanted his friends to be there to see it. When you say he wanted his friends to be there to see it, who is he?
I don't know how he thought he'd get away with blowing up Kid Cudi's car and he just wasn't going to do anything about that.
But after that incident, Cassie Combs and Kid Cudi do end up meeting up with each other, and this is like information that I have not come across until the testimony, at Soho House in LA. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss the relationship that we were no longer in. Yeah, and the only thing I remember from the end was Scott asking Sean. Scott said, what about my vehicle? And Sean said, what vehicle? And that was the end of the meeting.
Wait, they met up and talked about, we don't know.
Yeah.
At all.
Just that they're no longer seeing each other.
Okay.
And that was the part with Kid Cudi that everyone has been talking about. And I think the internet has been speculating that potentially he could be called to testify. Kim Porter was brought up a lot. And I think it was interesting for her to be brought up in the presence of also her children. Now, a picture from the 2006 BET Awards pops up on the exhibit screen, and it's Kim Porter, Combs, Cassie, and a woman named Sherry Dennis. They're all on the red carpet. Who is Kim Porter? Kim Porter was Sean's ex from before me and the mother of his children. So far, Kid Cudi, Kim Porter have come up, but there hasn't been much discussion that we didn't already know from like a few months ago about the two of them. But also, the infamous Suge Knight comes up. If you need some context, it's like, I genuinely think Sean Combs lived 10 different lives. Suge Knight is like from 5, 6, 7 lives ago. Cassie says, Combs and Suge Knight's, yeah, we're rivals, which is very valid. Combs had Bad Boy records from New York. Suge Knight had Death Row records for LA. They had Notorious Big, Sean did, and then Suge Knight had Tupac. And so they got the infamous East Coast, West Coast hip-hop rivalry, which semi-results in Tupac and Biggie Smalls' death, their murders. There's actually quite a bit to unpack with Suge Knight. And this is how Cassie describes the incident at the Melrose Diner, where Suge Knight is shot. And there's speculations that Sean Combs had something to do with it. Cassie says, Sean and I were having a freak off at one of his homes in LA.
Standard fuck you, and, ruining your bathroom with the shit, like but also just like gross.
D-Rock,
and also, they're so lucky they were too afraid to call the cops because, girl, that is evidence. That's just right DNA evidence.
And they quickly packed up and drove down there. What was your reaction? I was crying. I was screaming, like, please don't do anything stupid. I was just really nervous for them. I didn't know what it meant, what they were going to do. I saw them get dressed and leave the house. And you mentioned that they returned, is that correct? Yes. Approximately how long between when they left did they return? It really wasn't that long. I couldn't imagine. It was probably like definitely less than an hour, 30 minutes, 30, 45 minutes tops. When they get back, the prosecutors, they now want to focus on the guns. Have you ever handled Sean's guns? Handled? I've been handed, yeah, but scared. Who handed a gun to you? I don't know specifically who, but it was some security guard in the car. Okay. Approximately when did this happen? And what do you recall about that night? I just remember
figure out what's going where on
we took mushrooms and I was like really high and I was handed the gun to just hold in my bag. But I was just freaking out the whole time that it was gonna go off. I hadn't used or learned to operate a gun at that point, so.
Wait, is this like kind of like the J-Lo situation?
Yes, so this might be important later because if you guys remember, there was an incident a while back, and this is when Sean Combs was reportedly dating Jennifer Lopez. There was a nightclub shooting, and it is alleged that J-Lo had a gun in her purse as they left the nightclub. This is what we said about it months ago. As they're dating, both of them get arrested in New York City for a shooting that happens at a club. Diddy had been at this club with J-Lo, Shine, which is like a musical artist that he had just signed, I believe, and his bodyguard, Anthony Wolf Jones. The four of them were at a club when an argument breaks out, and somehow that escalates to shots being fired. Ultimately, 3 people get shot. There are witnesses from the club that are certain that they saw Diddy holding a gun in his hand. Diddy's protege, Shine, was also holding a gun. And according to a witness, that's what the witness remembers, but they fell to the ground because they had been shot in the shoulder. Another bystander, she had nothing to do with the initial fight. She doesn't even know these people. Her name is Natanya Rubin. She was shot in the face by Diddy, she claims. Shine, the 18-year-old musician, gets arrested at the club. Diddy and J-Lo had already left by the time that cops come. They ran straight to the car. Side note, some allege that Diddy zipped out of there, leaving his girlfriend behind. But either way, they both end up in the car being chased by NYPD. I think they run like 11 traffic lights before they're finally pulled over. And inside the car, some sources allege inside J-Lo's purse was the gun because Diddy would make her. Anyway, long story short, there's a lot of allegations that Diddy was the shooter. They all get arrested. J-Lo's charges are dropped. Now it's just Diddy, his bodyguard, and his musical protege, Shine. But Cassie states she had that gun in her bag. It was in my bag for the duration of the club visit, so like about an hour and a half. And how did you feel while the gun was in your bag? Just terrified? I didn't want anyone to touch me, come near me. I just stayed like sitting in the back. After you left the club, what did you do with the gun? As soon as we got in the car, I gave it to whoever the security was. I just didn't want it. I had no idea why I had it in the first place, and I just wanted to not be holding a loaded gun if I was.
Do this.
Speaking of guns, Cassie testifies that there are a lot of guns inside the Combs homes. Firstly, he has a lot of homes. Secondly, he reportedly has a lot of guns in those homes. Cassie says she personally saw guns in his New York, LA, Miami, and Jersey residences, just like laid out on the table by security, handguns. She says, yeah, maybe there was no point in those guns being laid out on the tables. She said it felt psychological. She says it's a vague memory, just they came out here and there, and guns were taken out here and there. So like, just I always felt like it was just a bit of a scare tactic. I didn't really know for what purpose. However, Suge Knight is now in prison, and he has always been suspicious of Sean Combs, and he still does jailhouse interviews saying that he's suspicious of Sean Combs. But since we're on Suge Knight, we also have to talk about Notorious Big real quick. Cassie mentions that there are aliases that the two of them would use to book hotel rooms for these freak-offs. Cassie went by Jackie Starr, Veronica Bang, and Anita Crawford. Combs went by Frank Black or Frank White. She's asked, turning to Jackie Starr, why did you use the name Jackie Starr? That was a name that I don't know who came up with it. If it was him or me, that I just used to actually book dancers. So I would use that name instead of my own name, and then just started using it as a hotel room name. But she never mentions why Combs was named Frank Black, or Frank White. But if you look online, Biggie Smalls would often refer to himself as Frank White. He got the name from a movie character who, quote, goes from ashy to classy, and he would sometimes be called Black Frank White, because it's just a big part of his lore. So if you're not familiar with the Biggie lore, I will link that episode below, or just wait, because there have been whispers that the conversation is going to arise again. Biggie has since obviously passed, but there's whispers that it's going to be a bigger conversation later on. Prince is also brought up. Cassie is explaining that one day she was with her makeup artist, Myla Morales, at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And one of the friends, she's just there with a group of girlfriends. One of the friends is like, do you know that Prince is having a party at his house? He's going to perform. I mean, we gotta go. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience to see Prince at a private performance. Where I want to put everything. So Cassie shows up. She says, we arrived and went downstairs. There weren't that many people there, and Prince wasn't performing yet. So we were just there, and I saw some executives from like BET. I saw different people that I knew through Sean, and then suddenly I heard that he was there.
Prince or Sean?
Sean. Huh. She did not tell him. Because, I mean, it's not like she was... I mean, she thought that if she told him, he was going to say no. It's not that he asked and she lied. She just was with her girlfriends. And then the night ended up at Prince's house at a party where there's a bunch of other people. Cassie says that she immediately books it out of there, though. Just, like, runs as fast as she can for the hills into the front yard because she could tell that he was angry. She says he came after her, quote, it's a little fuzzy, but the most distinct memory I have is like running and falling into the bushes in the front yard. And like, I don't know if at that point he was over me. I have no idea. I just remember falling in the bushes and then getting up quickly, getting into the car and getting back to the hotel. He follows her to the hotel where the makeup artist, Myla, is asleep on the couch. So he bursts in through the room. She's like, please, can we just like fight in the bedroom? And she says, we had this bad fight. He beat me up in that room. He was throwing luggage at me, just calling me all kinds of names.
Is he just very jealous, controlling?
Yeah. Now, there are allegations that before the trial, that Prince's name might come up during the trial. It could be referring to this. It could be referring to further allegations that Prince and Combs would party together.
Oh my God, you're
people
right. Fuck.
But most people seem
Mr.
to
Black
agree
and
that the
Mr. White
relationship
from Johnny Tester
between Combs and Prince was more professional, distant than close friendship. Now, side note, more celebrity names will come up during the cross-examination of Cassie, which will be covered in the next one, but the most important name that I think that came up during the direct, I will say, when some of these big names came up, the jurors seemed a lot more attentive, a lot more awake. Like, the minute that Kid Cudi came up, they're, like, jotting notes. Like, these names are, I mean, a lot of people know these names.
It's gonna expand.
Especially Kid Cudi, for some reason. Now, there is this moment, though, where the government requests back-to-back exhibits to be shown to the witness, to Cassie, but also to the open court. And all of them are pictures of male escorts. Which, side note, Alex Fine does not appear to be looking at the pictures of the male escorts. And I don't think it's because he's upset and, like, shocked at his wife having gone through this. Like, some people are trying to make it seem like, she had so many partners, he's so disgusted. It just looked like they are at a different stage in their lives now. They have to come and testify, but they have a family, and he's just choosing not to look at the photos. Like, that's how I perceived it. Now, she's responding to the ones that she recognizes. She's like, this one is Islander. He was hired for freakoffs, and I think he was on the site Latin Man. Next exhibit, I knew this one as, I knew him as Tommy. Next exhibit, I don't really recall his name. Next exhibit, I knew him as Skylar. And this is Jake. This is Greg. And then another photo pops up, And the jurors have zero reaction. But the press, there's shuffling in the press. People are like writing in the press. Like you just hear pens on journals. Miss Ventura, who do you know the individual depicted in Government Exhibit 2A624 to be? Jonathan? It's Jonathan Odie. Do you remember him? This is what we said about him a few months ago.
Oh my god.
They say the floors of the Trump National Doral Miami Hotel are impeccably clean, evidenced by footage of a man dressed in black inside the hotel that gets released.
I totally forgot about this.
He's in this nearly empty area of the hotel, and he's pointing his gun behind him. And his wrist seems to be made out of jello while he's just shooting up in the air at the ground. He's sometimes shooting at the chandelier, sometimes at the ground itself.
Yeah, this shit's absolutely fucking unhinged.
Interesting. He's just recklessly shooting his gun. He's slipping on the freshly cleaned floors multiple times. He's wearing just socks on tiled floors. Then he gets up and then shoots around like his wrist is made out of jello and then starts running trips again. Honestly, if you told me this is movie footage of a man who is shooting at ghosts, I would potentially believe you. But it's not. It's real footage. It's real footage of a man screaming, "Come out, mother!" while shooting at the ceiling and in the lounge areas. This man also grabs an American flag to drape over the front desk of the hotel. This is during Trump's presidency. He goes behind the counter, starts breaking, smashing the computers. When the Miami-Dade police arrive, a shootout ensues, both sides are firing, and in the commotion, the gunman manages to flee. He is found later hiding near the elevators with gunshot wounds to his legs. 1 gunshot to the right ankle, 2 to the left leg. Interestingly enough, most of the shots fired by the man were into the floor and ceiling, and ultimately the only one shot, thankfully, was himself. The man, Jonathan Odie, is arrested. He's a stalker for a website called dancingbears.com. It's an X-rated website where male dancers put on big bear masks and have intimate relations with women.
Oh my god, I thought it was going to be like,
But he continues rambling about, quote, Obama is Osama. Trump makes his money on gas. Kill all the police in the street. Useless, good for nothing, nada. All of you. Laws are corrupt. Police death has come to you. You be judged. Die for now and for hell and for all of eternity. People in the streets are going to shoot you. Get heart attacks. You're all dead. I'm gonna let them know to put a bullet in your head. My dog Bubbles, you gotta let him out of the apartment. Bubbles. If he does not eat, he will die. He then proceeds to pass the officers his house and car keys. Don't hurt my dog Bubbles.
You don't have
time in the United States?
Yeah.
Just my dog Bubbles.
He continues on his rambles. I have a settlement. I have a settlement with the former president of the United States, Obama. I have a settlement with the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, and I have one with P. Diddy. Excuse me?
Bro.
After the hospital, Jonathan Odie is brought into an interrogation room. Here's what I want you guys to know. Diddy and Ross, which they're good buddies, okay? And they're gay.
Ross?
Rick Ross. The police are confused. Who is?
Diddy and Ross and Khaled. They're all gay.
DJ
Okay?
Khaled, Rick Ross, and P. Diddy?
Yeah.
They all gay?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You know the Illuminati group that I was telling you about? He puts his hands up in a triangle shape. The Illuminated group, you know, the Illuminati, which is an elite group, okay? Individuals which run the whole country,
he sounds like he's absolutely
what I did
unhinged,
this for
like,
was to basically transmit a statement to the American people because they want the United States to fall. They've been creating chaos and confusion in the United States. They want the United States to fall. You have the Illuminati, basically, which means illuminate. They do satanic ritual abuse, which is basically CIA mind programming techniques to their own family and kids, and they bond that way. They do animal abuse, killing of animals, blood sacrifices, and everything in the Bohemian Grove. You know, where the bushes go?
Okay, how do I know this?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. How do you know this?
Sean Combs.
probably make this
Puff
look
Daddy.
different.
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself
Yeah.
these days. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's part of what's called the Boule. The Boule is a branch of the Illuminati.
Okay.
It's the black people. Okay. I'm from Africa, so I'm not a racist.
Okay.
Okay, you my brother, so I like black people.
Okay.
My mom, I was raised by an African woman in my house. Okay.
And the police are like, okay, right, okay. So I have this settlement with Sean, and he belongs to that agenda. That's why he's so famous. They land over contracts. Okay. He leans in, he puts his arms on the table.
Yes.
With Cassie and Sean.
Yes, he did do it.
Basically, he would tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot.
Because when they would do it, Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I'll be in there. I was like a slave. Yeah, for them. That's what I was. He leans back. So I caught herpes. He goes on.
What is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like the ramblings of someone who is a little unhinged. He leans back and he goes on to explain that Diddy's 2 attorneys asked him to turn in a video recording. Those 2 attorneys are also involved in Michael Jackson's death and the Illuminati. It's unclear, but it seems like he's stating a video was recorded of this supposed encounter and he turns it in, but he also states they gave it back to me accidentally, and it's possible that I threw everything out, but it's also possible that I could produce a copy. I'm not sure. Now, how does that lead up to him going into the Trump Hotel with a gun?
My settlement put me in a box. Basically, I couldn't talk because I was going to be sued. So I let it be, but they've been following me, and they've had, Mark Garrett has had the FBI on me, has had other agencies looking at me and spying on me, okay, because they want to set me up as an extortionist. Like if I was extorting Sean for money. It's wrong.
Basically what happened is the Ciroc agenda, you know, the Ciroc vodka agenda is to promote binge drinking and drugs. The hip-hop agenda, that's why they had Tupac killed. Because when they killed him, they gained pain. That's when the record sales go up. That's how you become famous. That's how you do it, all right? Tupac is still alive. He's in Cuba. Basically what happens, it was in the hip-hop agenda.
Okay.
What?
He alleges, in more simplified terms, they move drugs all over the United States. They move drugs in private jets that don't get screened within the United States domestically. They move all that dope in the private jets. They move what's called high-grade powder MDMA. They move cocaine. They move liquid cocaine in their bottles, too.
I've seen the liquid cocaine. I've drank it myself. Having sex with Diddy and Cassie. Okay, it's not good. He drinks it all the time. Alright, he calls it G-Kid, but it's liquid cocaine. Alright.
Many state it sounds like an interrogation that one would watch to study for psychology class. And to be frank, there's many parts of the interrogation that sounds like the unhinged ramblings of someone who has lost touch with reality and has gotten swept up in every internet conspiracy possible. Yeah. Perhaps he created a whole fantasy of 2 high-profile A-list celebrities, and in his mind, he truly knows them. He's met them. He's had these encounters with them, but it's all a fantasy, right? It doesn't change the fact that he committed this crazy crime, and it does appear that most of what he's saying are full-blown conspiracies, we hope. But the question is, what if there's even a little bit of truth to what he's saying? And now Cassie has just confirmed that they know each other. He recently did an interview with News Nation from a Miami jail, by the way. He says, I felt bad because I got along well with Cassie. I think she's a decent person, and unfortunately I had a suspicion that she was in a situation that, you know, but I wasn't sure. And now understand what was going on in her life and what was happening. And
beating her up in the hotel, shows me the type of individual he is.
Confirms that everything that happened to me was true and correct. He was saying, like, PI were following him. He was scared for his life. He says all this starts because he was making more money to perform sexual acts. He says, I got dressed like a police officer. Do you recall Witness 2?
Bro.
Yeah.
I got dressed like a police officer, and they stripped me down, and then they offered me some money. They offered me some money to do some extra sexual stuff. He describes everything pretty distinctly. He says, the freakoffs, yeah, I mean, candles, you know, he would just sit in the corner sofa,
yes,
watch,
this is for a video game.
Tell her, you know, give instructions what to do to
doing a dating sim. This is going to be this is like the template for the character profile page, essentially.
He says that he probably engaged. So
I'm kind of mapping it out using this character
and he would get
as like
paid
my
about $800
template.
each time. He says the biggest issue though that he had was Cassie just seemed so drugged out that he decided, I feel like she's going to die one day and they're going to blame it on me.
I need to get the rest of
so he says that he records a video at a freak-off because he's scared. He says, quote, because after she passed out, I decided to record that. So in an event, anything worse happened if she died, well, anybody died, they'll be on camera, they'll be on video. Like, I wouldn't be responsible for any of that. He records it, but they catch on. He says Combs and 2 associates in ski masks start coming to get him, and Combs just starts threatening Jonathan. That's what he's accusing. Eventually, allegedly, Jonathan signs an NDA and takes allegedly $5 million of what some might call hush money. It's unconfirmed, but there is a screenshot of an agreement floating around on the internet. We don't know how accurate it is, but he did immediately start going on a real estate shopping spree in Florida.
Did he buy something?
Yes, he bought like a bunch of real estate. Now, hold on to Jonathan Odie, because he's going to come
where
back
do I
in the
want
next
this to
episode
pop
as
out?
well.
Maybe I'll put that where the
There were a
secrets
few
is.
moments where they're pulling something from the evidence, and Cassie would just kind of quietly shift in her chair. She just seems really uncomfortable on the chair. She's not trying to move or fidget too much, but anytime there's a moment where she's not being asked a question, she's like trying to readjust her belly, her positioning, and her shoulders will go up. And then she'll just kind of like lower them as if she's like releasing tension. And she reaches for tissues to wipe her tears. And again, this could be a very strong bias.
We'll make the second.
I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I bet she's really lonely up there.
So this can be secrets
not like
over
you can
here.
Just say, hey, can I have my husband sit next to me? Hey, can I like go and meditate for 10 minutes, or like go cry in the bathroom? I mean, she can take a few breaks here and there, but I imagine that feeling to be very lonely. Like your brother, your husband, your cousin are in the courtroom. They're so far away. And there's all these scary people in between, and scary, not like threatening, but, you know, attorneys are scary, they're intense. The jurors are just sitting right next to her. And it's just like, Prosecutor Johnson asks, and how did you learn what a freak-off was? Within the first year of our relationship, Sean proposed me this idea, this sexual encounter that he called voyeurism, where he would watch me have intercourse and sexual activity with a third party, specifically another man.
Yeah.
When Sean first proposed freak-offs, what was your reaction? Oh, I just remember like my stomach falling to my butt, like just the nervousness and the confusion in that moment.
This feels good.
I think I was 22 at the time. I just turned 22. I didn't have a concept of how that would be a turn on, but I also felt a sense of responsibility with him sharing something like that with me, you know? So yeah, I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much and wanted to make him very happy. So
we're going to work more on it next week. This is what we're going to be working on this month, I think.
He described voyeurism as a fantasy that he had where he would want to see me having with another male and having sexual interaction. Yeah, he would watch. What was your reaction when Sean told you about voyeurism? I was shocked. I wasn't expecting anything like that. I just really, like, at a loss. I didn't know how to react. I didn't want to upset him. Yeah, it's going to be like
if I said dating
that it scared me, or if I said anything outside of, okay, let's try it. Because
I'm trying to make it as involved as possible and make the gameplay kind of fun, really and then kind of make it slightly open worldy, but like, well, still like a dating sim format.
Swinging was brought up
and then there's also going to be like an underlying mystery you can solve as well.
About couples that switch partners. And
you can
I
date
didn't really have too much knowledge of it.
Or none,
did you
or
agree
as
to
many
try
as you
freak-off when
want
Sean
of
first
the
proposed one?
people.
I did. Approximately how old were you when Sean first proposed freak-offs to you? I think I just turned 22. And how did it come? How did the term freak-off come about? I honestly don't remember exactly how it came about. Can you describe to the jury when you say the term freak-off what that entails?
A lot better. Especially after my break.
Basically, it entails the hiring of an escort and setting up the experience so that I could perform for Sean.
My psyche. I think this schedule is going to help me a lot.
And what did the performance involve at a high level? The performance involved...
Of course.
I'm sorry.
And it's going to be just me until I get to the point where I'm like...
Emotional.
And my skill has run out.
Watching, Sean being able to watch me with the other person and direct us on what we were doing sexually. And when you say the other person, who are you referring to?
I'm going to go until I get to that point all by myself.
The third party, the escort or dancer that would be hired?
It's going to take
Cassie
years.
Cassie explains during the freak-offs, Combs would provide ecstasy and alcohol.
It's really fun, and I'm enjoying it.
What did you wear to the first freak-off?
We've been working on it for
specifically,
like
I don't know exactly, but it was definitely an outfit from a sex store. Hustler or something with some really high platform shoes, like dancing shoes.
So if you're into elves,
super see-through netting outfit. It varied, just like a sexy outfit. From
and then
the store.
I know we can definitely make like
you would buy outfits
a lewd game as well.
In LA,
if we want
there's a store called Pleasure Chest. Hustler on Sunset.
I'm
Here
getting better
in the
at
city,
drawing
there's just
lewds.
like little shops everywhere.
Okay.
She says that she would always wear those stripper dance shoes, just like extremely high heels, uncomfortable, but
No, I
extremely
haven't
high.
done any
She would
of the
wear them
testing
throughout
and the actual
entire
thing yet, because I
freak-off.
need
Sometimes
like
if there was a break, she would
way
take them
more
off, but
with
mainly
the
she would wear them
base
throughout.
brainstorming and
Who
this
decided
stuff
what you would wear to
done
the
before I can
freak-offs?
even get to that
I would
point.
purchase outfits and show Sean and see what he liked the best. What, if anything, did you do to disguise your appearance? She states later
This
that
is true.
the very
I'm going to be
first
using a
time, Sean told
program
her
to
that they
help
would
me
be
with
wearing
this,
masks, like a
so it
masquerade
shouldn't
mask.
be the
And then
hardest
later,
thing. It's
sometimes
just
she would
going to be
wear
me
glasses,
learning the
sometimes she would wear
program.
wigs.
It's like a
What
dating
if any
sim.
supplies were needed for freak-offs? Main
Maker,
supplies were
essentially.
baby oil,
To
Astroglide
simplify
as
it.
lubricants, and condoms. Who typically bought the supplies for the freak-offs? More often than not, it was the staff. Like, the room was usually stocked by the time we got there. If not, if
I think
it were
hearing
like a
from the
last-minute
staff is actually
situation that I
infinitely
set
more
up,
impactful. No
I would
offense to
get things,
Cassie.
or sometimes Sean would bring
Obviously, no
them.
offense to Cassie.
Initially, what kind of lighting was used for
Not
freak-offs?
to diminish her
Initially, it was candlelit, so various candles.
statement or anything.
What kind of
You
candles
know,
were
like
used?
obviously really powerful too.
At the time, really
But I
strong
think
smelling
that
candles,
because
like
she's in
Glade or
the point where
Diptyque,
she's so traumatized,
any
she
just
can't really
really
show a
strong
lot of
smelling.
emotion
Approximately
behind it. She
how
kind of
many
has to state
candles
it
were
matter of
used?
factly. Because like when you're
Approximately
super
6 to
traumatized,
10,
that's just
they
kind of
were
what you
placed so that
do.
Sean could see me and the
And
escort
it's
in the
normalized to you.
candlelight.
But like the
Later, she
staff
says
like
that there was a
witnessing it and
distinct
not
smell during
being used to
freak-offs,
that
so
is
perhaps
infinitely more
that's why they
impactful
used
to the
the very
jury,
strong
I think,
candles.
because they're
does that mean?
really emotional.
Lots of just mixing
Describing
of
how she was
sense
abused, like
of
witnessing her
body
abuse
sense, baby
is
oil,
infinitely
but
more
also later
emotional
there's
coming from the
blood
staff
and
who
urine
witnessed
and-
it than it was coming from Cassie.
Besides lighting,
Super
were there any
unfortunate.
other uses for candle wax?
Not her fault.
A couple of times where it was poured
But
on
yeah.
the body, but it wasn't common.
I
When you say poured on
you're
the body,
right,
whose body?
We should play that.
My own or Sean's?
We really should.
And specifically, she even goes on to mention that the candles, if they were the Glade ones, they were the Angel Whispers scent. And she says, if anybody knows what that smells like, just like on 10. It was super pungent and mixed with oil and just all of the other scents. What other scents were there?
Hello.
I mean, it was warm. So he liked to keep it kind of warm in the hotel room during the freak-offs. So body odor, you know. Side note, I did see another interview previously of Cassie where she talks about being a germaphobe.
Do I have any phobias? I'm a
So
germaphobe.
fucked.
Don't shake my hand.
It's actually so
You didn't
fucked.
wash yours.
That he would do all
Yeah,
this
and
stuff
she
to her
does
knowing
seem,
she's a
like, very
germaphobe.
squeamish every time she talks about these incidents of like the freak-offs. How was the baby oil used during the freak-off? It was just as important
can
as
so
everything
relate to
else
that.
being there. We used it quite a bit. Can you please describe what happened at the initial first freak-off?
Yes, I'm
we
in
took
Seattle.
dogs,
It's
we
very
had a
legal here.
conversation. Sean had a conversation with the dancer,
Everything
and
is
then shortly
legal
after he
here.
came down to the room and performed and
Best
stood in the
state.
doorway and danced for a little while I just watched and while Sean watched us.
I know every state is
happened
kind of
next?
fighting for the bottom right now, but
It was
like
just
we're
a
the best.
gradual, I would say. Every freak off was like directed by Sean.
Okay.
Like he knew specifically where he wanted everyone to be, the lighting and such. So the first session we just kind of ended up getting closer and closer, talking to each other, and then eventually had to put oil on each other. Yeah. You used the word session. What do you mean by session? A session in a freak off would be like one full time, the escort until basically they finished. Do you recall how many sessions you had with the first escort at the first freak off? I believe we had at least 2. After this freak off, how did you feel? Well, I was high, so there wasn't too much feeling. I think it was a mixture of dirty and confusion, like, okay, he's really happy with me and I did something right, so just really confusing. I didn't know that what was going to happen after that. I didn't know if we were going to be doing it more frequently because I was willing to. I didn't know. So what, if anything, did you tell Sean about how you felt about the first freak off? I honestly don't remember. She said within weeks he asked for another freak off, and she responded in like the same kind of mixture of like nervousness, what am I going to do, but also I can't say no is the feeling. She says, like, I've already done it and I ultimately said yes. Why did you feel you couldn't say no? Just didn't want to make him upset.
Because he was gonna fucking beat her
I didn't want to
ass.
make him upset. I didn't want him to make him angry and regret having told me about this experience that was so personal. His trust meant a lot to me at that point. How frequently did you have freak-offs with Sean after they started? After they started, it became almost weekly, I would say. Who was in charge of all the aspects of the freak-offs you mentioned? The hiring, the setup, etc. Eventually, it became a job for me,
Why are you
pretty
crying
much.
over there, little doggy?
To where I knew if that it is something that he wanted to do. I had the contacts to set it up and get a hotel room and all of that. But in the beginning, Sean set it up. He was in charge. Where was it? Where was the baby oil placed? We poured it all over our bodies. Had to be glistening. Which participants in the freak off, if any, used
See,
the
this
baby
is
oil?
why I'm like, what
Everyone?
the fuck is the point of the baby
What
oil? Because
temperature was
baby
the baby
oil
oil
is
when it was poured on your
terrible oil for this.
It was always heated.
It absorbs
like,
into
put
your
the cap
skin
on it
really
and
quickly.
Put it in the sink with hot
It's
water
not
and
good
let
at
it warm
keeping
up.
you shiny.
Who
Baby
wanted the
oil
baby
is
oil
one
to
of
be
the
heated?
worst oils for this.
Sean,
Trust me,
You
I
mentioned
know.
that the baby oil was used because you had to be glistening. Who told you that you needed to be glistening?
Like,
Sean,
it doesn't
was his
make sense to use
preference.
baby oil.
How
Why are they
frequently
using
would
baby
baby oil be
oil?
applied
It's
to be
so
glistening?
weird. And
Like
there's
every
no
5
evidence
minutes?
there's
It was a
drugs in
lot.
it, because they would have brought that
He would,
up.
if he felt like we were too dry, he would let us know.
They would have brought it
What
up.
would he
They would have
say?
tested it, and they would have
He would
brought it up.
say, "You're too dry.
It's
You need to
so
put on more
weird.
oil, or you need to be
So
glistening. You need to be shining." Why did you know what to do? It's a very choreographed experience. Who choreographed it?
You
Sean.
know?
During the freak-offs, who applied baby oil to you? I applied it to myself, sometimes Sean, sometimes the escort. How did you usually apply baby oil? You just squirt it out of the bottle? Approximately how many bottles of baby oil would be used in a typical freak-off? A lot. I would say definitely somewhere close to 10. Now, yeah, side note, there were some evidence photos, and they were using, at least I'm assuming they were using the larger bottles. She does confirm it was the larger ones. 10 bottles is about like $80 per freak off, which I highly doubt Combs is worried about
see
the
how much
price.
you need
But
to
aside from
use
that,
to
that's
stay
a gallon
oily?
of baby oil.
So, like,
10
why
bottles
use baby
is
oil?
a gallon. I mean, if you were to use baby oil for typical baby care applications, parents would probably go through a gallon of baby oil in a year. Even a full body massage only requires 3 fluid ounces of oil per session. They're using 140 ounces, so that's like 46 full body
so
massages.
weird.
Even if you were to get a massage almost every week, you could last almost a year with that much baby oil.
So it's basically a gallon dumped
Like,
in
it's
the middle
so
of the room.
fucking random.
A hotel room.
Yeah, and how do you even clean baby oil?
Oh,
It
yeah.
doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
How do you even clean
Now,
baby oil?
obviously, this doesn't
Great
cover the
question.
people who use it for professional settings or for extenuating circumstances. Typically, athletes will use a lot of baby oil, but this is still an abnormally large amount of
It's
consumption
so
of baby oil.
weird.
But that wouldn't
Yes.
that mean like all of these hotels kind of know about this then? Because
There were some tweets circulating of employees at hotels that were like, "Hey, so Diddy just stayed at the hotel that I work at, and I'm telling you he's nasty." And like people didn't really put 2 and 2 together because it's like, what does that even mean? And like you kind of assume that celebrities have wilder sex lives, quote unquote. Just to remind you though, authorities said that they seized 1,000 bottles of baby oil during the raid on his homes. Like thousands of bottles, which is exponentially more money, but aside from the cost once more, it is an insane quality. To which even before the trial, Agnifilo said he probably bought it in bulk, like a lot of Americans do at the local Costco. I'm paraphrasing.
That's not a
and
thing.
I do think that before the
Bitch,
trial started,
what the
I was
hell?
like, "Sir, what a crazy thing to say. I think you're absolutely
not a
insane
thing.
and you got a few bolts loose, right?" But now I'm like, yeah, no, Mark Agnifilo would say something like that. He'd just be saying stuff, and him and Brian Steele, I feel like they say stuff, and I believe that they believe what they're saying. Like, it's the craziest thing. It's like, I feel like you might genuinely
So
believe
weird.
that. Maybe
It's
I'm
so
naive,
weird.
and I think maybe they're just that
It's
good.
so
Like, they
weird.
say it with their full chest, but it's also just like,
I
the
know,
whole
it's so funny that
demeanor.
Costco did that.
Anytime that Mark Agnifilo is talking, he sounds like the type that would be like, I mean, yeah, bulk buying does make sense. Like, that's the vibe he gives me. So it did get me a little bit confused. I mean, maybe they're just super convincing, and maybe that's why they're getting paid allegedly 7-8 figures to be on the defense team. I don't know. Both of them do have that teddy bear dad aura, which I'm saying this because I'm sure the jurors are also receptive to the attorney's vibes and energies inside that courtroom, especially when you're there all day, Monday through Friday. I mean, like you can't avoid people's like quirks and personalities and sometimes charisma. Now, I do think, interestingly enough, Brian Steele and Mark Agnifilo are more charming when the jurors are not in the room.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
During like the hearings.
What does that mean?
So they'll be talking to the judge about even like debating that Cassie's husband shouldn't be in the room, right? And I don't think that action is charming, but it's the way that they phrase things and the way that they try to make jokes at certain times. Not jokes because nothing's funny, but like there will be an awkward moment and they'll kind of lean into the awkward moment. So it's very interesting. I'm curious to see how it translates to the jurors in the next 7 weeks.
Yeah, just every American's normal shopping list.
After
80 gallons of baby
describe
oil.
The condition of the room where the freak-off was held?
Are you okay?
The room was usually
what
pretty
the fuck
bad
are you
off.
talking
There was
about?
oil all over the walls, the door handles, the bed, the sheets. We often would get to the room. I would need to call and ask for extra linens and towels and stuff like that to try and mitigate those problems, but oil, candle wax, all over the place. So she would ask for extra sheets and try to cover the couch. But, I mean, you're not really a gallon of baby oil. You described wax and oil damage. What else, if anything, was soiling the linens? Sometimes blood, urine. So starting with blood, how would blood get on the linens at freak-offs? I was expected to have freak-offs on my period. Did you want to have freak-offs on your period? No, I don't think anybody really wants to do that. And you also mentioned urine. How would urine get on the linens at freak-offs? Sometimes Sean would have, he would have the escort urinate on me. Sometimes there was so much going on, I don't know how they got soiled the way they did, to be completely honest. So focusing on the urine, did you want an escort or Sean to urinate on you? No. And before that happened, what, if anything, did you discuss about being urinated on? There was no conversation. It just was a turn on for him, so it happened. Can you please describe how it felt when this happened? I mean, just as humiliating if anybody were there to see it. It was disgusting. It was too much. It was overwhelming. I choked. There couldn't have been anything on my face that was reading that I wanted to be doing that. I was kind of just laid on the floor in a position that I couldn't easily get out of. So, were you able to tell the escort to stop? I just kind of put my hands up, and eventually Sean saw and he told them to stop. Why did you put your hands up? Nothing I could really do laying on the floor. You mentioned choking. Why were you choking? Too much urine in my mouth? And besides the escort urinating on you, who else, if anyone, did that? Sean? Did you want Sean to urinate on you? I don't want anyone to urinate on me, no. And when in relation to the escort urinating on you, did Sean urinate on you? The same time. Were there freak-offs where you ran out of baby oil? Defense attorney Esteveo leans into the microphone on the table. Objection, Your Honor, at this point, it's getting a little cumulative. AKA, it's a lot of repeating evidence that adds little information beyond what's already being established. They're saying, like, we're just doing too much baby oil questions. Basically, you can't keep repeating stuff to try and overemphasize a point if you're not adding any more information or substance to the case. Or it's like if you have multiple expert witnesses that are all testifying the same thing over and over again, then you don't need that many multiple expert witnesses.
So,
the judge tells Prosecutor Johnson, let's wrap this up and move on. You also mentioned Astroglide. How was that used at freak-offs? Esteveo leans in. Same objection, irrelevant.
How is that
Prosecutor
irrelevant?
Johnson this time is not having it. Your Honor, it's a supply. The judge calls for a sidebar.
How is that irrelevant?
So in court, when there's a sidebar, the bailiff will actually come to like the middle of the courtroom and he will be watching everyone. Like no one's allowed to talk because technically the judge is still on the bench, right? And you see the defense attorneys, you see the prosecutors, and you see the judge literally do a huddle on the side of the courtroom and they just play white noise.
A little puppy tantrum?
But then when you get the transcripts, you can actually see what was talked about unless it's a sealed sidebar. So I always find like a very interesting thing because when it's a sidebar, it's like, wait, why did they call a sidebar? Now I'm so curious. And then later you find out. Now, at this moment in the sidebar, the judge is asking Prosecutor Johnson, Ms. Johnson, maybe you can help us with where we're going right now. I think the objection is grounded in lack of relevance and also the cumulative nature of the questioning. Am I right about that?
Yeah,
Esteveo
Diddy and
says,
R. Kelly don't have
the judge says,
that much.
Maybe if you can give us some guidance as to where you're going next, that would be helpful.
They have way more in common than they do not in common.
Various supplies that were used because those are supplies that were demanded by the defendant, that were at every freak-off, that were consistent, which showed a pattern, which showed how he controlled the events that happened at these freak-offs. I will not ask any more oil questions. I have one question on lubricant, but I'm going to march through with different supplies that were present. That's fine. The judge is like, that's fine. I understood the objection to be mainly on the cumulative nature on this. I think we had about 20 questions on baby oil issues, and I think we can condense that a little bit, and you'll avoid the objection. Is that fair?
How long was this baby oil talk? Was it like an hour, 2 hours?
Was
it like, did it feel like it was extended that?
I didn't... And maybe because the baby oil was
again?
a very big lure, and maybe it's not the most factual evidence against the charges that he's being charged with.
Chatillon?
I thought it was...
Chatillon?
I thought the jurors were engaged.
Chatillon?
Oh, you thought the jurors were engaged.
Yeah, I thought that it was... I don't know if it's like
names, chat.
importance to the case, or maybe it's, you know, shocking information.
Hi, baby.
Got it.
But it didn't feel overly like, oh my God, let's move on. There were other times where I was like, oh my goodness, like we don't need to know the past 10 residences in which she lived unless you're going to like tie it into something, which I felt like sometimes it was and a lot of the times it wasn't. But this was not one of those situations where I was like, baby, what's happening?
I'm not doing anything for you right now. Stop.
But to which Mark Agnifilo, lead defense counsel, says, I was going to say slippery slope, but
we'll do
I'm
this
not
for
going
now.
to say it.
So he's making a joke.
Yeah, and that's how they end the sidebar. Which is like gnarly because
that's funny.
To end the sidebar with a baby oil joke, what is happening right now, which if you're like, are you sure that was a lot of questions on the baby oil? There were a lot of questions on the baby oil. I will give you that, okay? So there were more throughout the entire direct. Were there other ways of applying baby oil at a freak-off? There was one time where I think I got to a hotel in Beverly Hills and there was a pool, like a blow-up pool, and it was filled with lube and oil, so that was a different way. When there was a blow-up pool that was filled with lube and oil, what did you do with the pool? I don't know what happened to the pool, honestly. Well, when there was that pool and oil, did you get into that pool? I did, with my outfit, my shoes. It was quite dangerous. Who, if anyone, asked you to get into the pool? Sean, it was his idea. Did you want to get into a pool of baby oil? No, especially not in a hotel room like that. It was such a mess. It was like, what are we doing? Yeah. Why did you get into the pool with baby oil? At that point, I couldn't say no. It would have been bad. Yeah.
Did I spell out wrong?
Yeah. When you say bad, what do you mean? What concerns did you have about not getting into the pool with baby oil? That, amongst other things, just his temper. If that is something that he wanted, Sean wanted to happen, that's what's going to happen. There wasn't any other way around it. And now with the Astroglide and baby oil, Cassie explains that if they ran out of it, what would happen when you ran out of it?
Honey,
we would
why are you crying?
Either call somebody, staff, to bring it, or ask the bell desk and give them a tip. When you say staff, what staff are you talking about? Sean's staff. Which members of Sean's staff would resupply the hotel rooms? Assistants, usually?
What's your deal?
Before leaving the hotel, what, if anything, did you do to clean up the linens you described?
Stop begging.
I mean, there wasn't really too much you could do, but just give a good tip and hope that they would help out. I would just try to clean up what I could. Usually, like an assistant or staff or somebody would come, I believe, after. She says that, in fact, sometimes they would get so many charges
40 more
for the
minutes
damage in the room, which completely understandable that the hotels would do that. She says that she heard through conversations with some of Combs' staff members, and she doesn't remember the exact number, but there have been numbers circulating, tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, because I imagine they have to like rip up the carpet, replace things.
The furniture and the walls.
Yeah.
Gross.
I remember specifically hearing like a number that was crazy. It was having to redecorate the room. It was like a really high number to fix it.
Bro, they just
That's so interesting.
wreck
Like even
every
with that,
hotel
you still
room.
choose to go to hotels.
Yeah.
In a public, not public, but like a.
Do we want to have symbols for each of the clubs?
Because I guess they're bringing escorts.
Right.
Are you aware which hotel charged that really high number? The Intercontinental Hotel in New York. Which, side note, Cassie says once the freak-offs became her job, Combs would just tell her what to do, and pretty quickly, over time, she says, I knew that it wasn't something that I wanted to be doing, especially as regularly as it became. But again, I was just in love, and I wanted to make him happy. And I didn't really know what no could turn into. What do you mean by that? Making him angry, very honestly, also making him uncomfortable that I knew this thing and that I no longer wanted to do it. Ultimately, at that point, Sean controlled a lot of my life, whether it was my career, the way I dressed, like everything. And I just didn't feel like I had much say in it at that time, being like super, really young, naive, total people pleaser. I didn't know if he would be upset enough to be violent or if he would write me off and just not want to be with me at all. Eventually, Cassie says there's the element that she was scared that there was also so much blackmail material. She basically felt like, quote, if I didn't do it, that it would be hung over my head in that way or that these things would become public. which from my angle and perception, it looks like Combs is shaking his head lightly, which I feel like he does this often when he wants to either show the jury that he doesn't believe what she's saying, or a strong like, no, this isn't what happened. It's like a very like, no, why would she say that? Like, no, I disagree. This is crazy that she's saying that.
Katie?
He doesn't do that when it's discussing violence or even parts of the freak-offs itself. That's what's very interesting. It's always like moments like this.
Blackmail.
Yeah, and then there was another point which it's like the same, slightly similar questions, so I didn't include it because I mean, the direct examination was over the span of 2 days. It's over 10 hours. But in one point, she says, like, he has a lot of resources. And, like, he was just shaking his head no.
I wonder if that has, because it's so related to the RICO charge and trafficking, maybe blackmail.
And so he's just shaking his head lightly. And she says initially that these videos were recorded on like small tape-filled cameras. And then eventually it morphed into iPhones, iPads, computers. They were recorded on both Cassie and Combs' devices, which sometimes they would later watch the videos together. Cassie says, I would watch them with Sean afterwards usually when we were having intimate relations. But I also, if I saw them and I was on my own, I was deleting them. She says if she sees a video on her phone, she's erasing it. I mean, she's asked, why did you delete the video that you found on your devices? It's humiliating, disgusting. I never wanted anyone to see me like that. It just was not okay for me. And I felt like it was just tossed around. Like the idea of it was tossed around like it was nothing, like objectifying me and putting me in these really compromising, gross positions with strangers that I just... She says that she would frequently ask Combs to delete the videos on his devices, especially because so many assistants, staff members just constantly have access to his phone and his computer. But he would just threaten to blackmail her with them whenever he was upset about something.
On Twitch
she says, quote, he just wanted to hurt me. How frequently did he bring up the freak-off videos to you? I mean, once is too much, but several times. Cassie says that she was so scared that he would be mad enough to put them out, and then I would have to answer to my mother. Like, I just feared for my career, I feared for my family, just embarrassing, all of it. It's horrible and disgusting. Like, no one should do that to anyone. It could ruin everything that it worked for. Just make me look like a slut. I would be shamed. Like, I wasn't supposed to be on those videos.
Like that, like a beaker.
She's saying, like, she didn't even want to be there. I mean, the leverage of having an incriminating or derogatory, humiliating video of someone telling them they're going to release it if you don't behave the way that they want you to, or whatever the case may be, it was just always like that. Like that was a big part of our relationship. She says, for example, they went to Cannes Film Festival, and this was in her lawsuit, but on their flight back home, it was a commercial flight where there's a lot of other people nearby. Combs was clearly upset with her of a fight that they had in Cannes. He pulls up his laptop and starts playing a video. It's a video that she thought she deleted of a freak-off.
Oh, yeah.
And he essentially, I mean, it's insinuated that he forced her to watch it the entire way back. She said when they landed in New York, they ended up going to dinner and they had a freak-off. She said, honestly, at that point, whatever was going to make him not be angry at me and threatening me, I was willing to do. Yeah, I just didn't want to feel scared anymore. And one thing he made me feel like it was something I was good at. That was on top of the fact that he was violent with her. Like, the violence was always in the back of her mind. Interestingly, she testifies that the conversation about freak-offs happens around the same time that the relationship starts getting violent. So it's relatively close together. Okay. She's asked, why did you agree to a freak-off? And, okay, this is where I do think that Cassie is trying really hard to be honest. Because there are moments like this where she's so candid and she just says, that's a great question. I wanted to make him happy. I was in a really significantly mature relationship that I don't think I was prepared for now when I look at it. But yeah, I loved him. I didn't want him to think that I thought anything bad of him for it. I just wanted to make him happy. She says that the best thing that she could do basically was just try to disassociate during the freak-offs. I just felt like it was all I was good for to him. I just felt pretty horrible about myself. I felt disgusting. I was humiliated. I didn't have those words to like put together at the time, like how horrible I really felt. And I couldn't talk to anyone about it. So So she had to use drugs during every freak off to disassociate and numb herself. She said it would be a range of ecstasy, marijuana, ketamine, GHB, sometimes mushrooms, just whatever there was, later cocaine. And it was always Sean providing the drugs at the freak offs. And Prosecutor Johnson brings it back to the urination because I think there were maybe some things that were a little bit confusing about it. And she's asking, like, why didn't you say anything when you didn't want to be urinated on? She says, I mean, in that moment, I was squeamish immediately and high. And in the moment with this man, I mean, that's what happened. That's not a whole lot of control you have at that point of taking that many drugs and being laid on the floor with two men standing over you, peeing on you. Could have gotten up and screamed, I guess. Why didn't you say no when that happened?
Okay.
I thought that it was obvious that I didn't want to do it, I guess. She's asked, how much time out of your week did freak-offs take?
Stop,
it would depend on how long they were. They ranged anywhere between 36, 48 to 72 hours. I feel like the longest one was over 4 days, maybe even more, like on and off with breaks. So it was a significant part of the week.
Anytime soon.
36.
You don't get anything right now.
The lowest.
You gotta stop. And this was happening once a week. She says that the average freak-off would last 2 to 3 days, and she would be awake the full time that it's happening on drugs. The longest one that she remembers was 4 days. She says, quote,
that's kind of what I was going
often
for.
would try to speed it up if anyone wasn't really paying attention. So to further break down the freak-offs, Cassie explains.
I'm adjusting
there's
my
like
chair. Lay the fuck down.
And each one of them is sessions. So each time that an escort ejaculates is a session. But there's multiple sessions throughout the span of 36 to 72 hours. But there's acts within the sessions. So the first act of the session would be self-pleasuring while looking at each other. This is what she's saying. When you say looking at each other, who would you be looking at? I would be looking at the escort and they would be looking at me. I would describe what I saw in detail, and yeah, that's kind of how the beginning went. Why would you describe what you saw in detail? That's what turned Sean on. That was his fantasy. So yeah. How did you feel about describing what you were doing in the masturbation step of the session? I mean, it was just always pretty awkward.
So awkward.
I'm a pretty laid-back person, so like sitting there and describing somebody's penis to another male was just awkward and pretty humiliating, but eventually it just became normal. Did you want to be describing what you were doing intimately? No, I did not. What was the next step in the session? Self-pleasure was just continued to put oil on, eventually get to each other, the escort and I, and actually start touching each other. That would eventually lead to oral activities. When you move to touching the escort, how would you know when to move from self-pleasuring to touching the escort? More often than not, I would ask if it's okay for me to. She would ask Sean. It was his fantasy. He was controlling the whole situation. He was directing it. He was doing the lighting. He was telling us where to be, what to say, how to act in the room. I would just try to speed the process along. It was, personally, if I get it done, that it's over, and then we move on to the next thing, and I just wanted it to be over. And after the oral intimacy, what typically was the next step? That would lead to intercourse, and depending on the familiarity with the escort, sometimes Sean and the escort would both have intimate relations with me or doing something at the same time. Sometimes Sean would just watch.
Okay.
When you say that he would be doing something with you at the same time, what is that something? If I was having intercourse with an escort, he would walk up and have me give him oral activities. It was just like a lot happening at once.
I'm going to adjust some of
Cassie, also in a now viral moment, is asked about when the escorts would finish. Usually they would finish like wherever Sean instructs, and when it was okay for them per Sean. But if they did, they would usually do it on her, and then her and Sean would go into the next room. So usually they get hotel suites. So I'm assuming all of this is happening in the living room because they're covering the couch with the linen. They would go into the bedroom inside the hotel suite. And this is the now viral moment where she says, Sean and I would go into the next room, and he would want me to put the fluid on his body. Sean was usually right there directing it where it could be. So she states they go in there, and she would transfer the substance from her body to, quote, usually on his chest, on his nipples.
Disgusting.
She says that if the escorts would finish before they were told, they would get paid less.
A different color.
And she's also asked, when you say you wanted it to be over, what are you referring to? The freak-off session? I mean, more often than not, I would just want to be able to go to the other room where I could just spend time alone with Sean. When you say get to the other room where you could spend time alone, who was in the room where you were spending time alone? Just me and Sean. And the individual stages that you described, how long typically did each of those stages last? Felt like forever. One thing could be hours, honestly, depending on how high we were. Yeah. How would Sean react when you try to speed up the process? He would tell me to slow it down, or tell both me and the escort to slow it down. I could often, like, if I left the room to use the bathroom, I could hear Sean telling the escort to slow it all down because
be a different color?
I usually just wanted to hurry. Besides asking you to slow it down, were there occasions where you had to start a stage over if you moved too quickly? Yeah, we would go back to square one. Approximately how many sessions would you have with one escort during a freak-off? I would say at least 2 or 3, but a freak-off could be 3 to 4 different men.
Thank
and
you.
when more than one escort was present, how did the intimacy proceed? Just like it was very like porn, like explicit materials.
That's a great question.
It was just like
I don't know.
I was an object being heavily objectified by men in that scenario. Just
Probably.
having to be the only female in the room, like with all the sexual stuff. It just having to entertain one more person, make sure one more person is satisfied. Yeah.
Okay.
During these sessions, where was Sean physically relative to you and the escort? If he wasn't involved, he would just be like outside the room, kind of covered up, not seeing. You could just hear his voice, or in the corner. If he was involved, he would be right next to us. If Sean was in the corner of the room, what was he generally doing there? He was generally self-pleasuring and just talking. What kinds of things did he say?
Ew.
He'd just ask me
Not Diddy in the cup chair, though.
the other
That's so funny.
party's private part felt, like what it looked like.
It's so funny
how
that
it
Diddy's in the
felt.
cup chair.
Oh, this is so awkward. She says that.
God damn
Sometimes if he wasn't in the room, he would quote, there was like a couple of occasions where he said he wanted to watch from a different room, where he would set up like my phone and his phone would be on FaceTime so he could watch while he wasn't like present in the actual room. So I was still expected to do the same thing even though he wasn't there. She says that if he actually left though and they weren't on FaceTime, everything would stop. She's like, I don't want to do this. Like, get off of me, basically. So it's like clear it's a performance for him.
Yeah.
It's not something that continues if she's like, oh, if he's not watching, no. Like, I don't want to be doing this. She also is, like, stating, I've never reached out to any of these escorts without Sean and, like, his guidance, basically. Like, I've never tried to form relationships with them. I've never tried to meet them alone. Okay, like, nothing. Also, there was another issue. During freak-offs, what difficulty, if any, did escorts have in getting or maintaining stimulated down there? It was actually pretty frequent with people that we didn't know well. Yeah, and they would express it. Like, it's like every time Sean would talk, it would just throw them off. Or if he moved a candle, or, it's distracting, I guess.
Bro.
What did Sean do when escorts were having trouble with maintaining stimulation down there? He would give them a pep talk.
A pep talk? What does that mean? Like, you got this?
Yeah. Were there any occasions where Sean offered the escorts drugs like Viagra? Yes. She also states that he pressured her to take it, and it made her feel, quote, sensitive and engorged. She states that she did not want to take it. And there was just a lot of things that she really hated doing that she was mentioning, especially kissing. So Witness 2 said the same thing. She said, I was really against kissing. I just felt like it was too intimate, but it still happened anyway. Like, she told Sean, she says that it made her squeamish, and he would still request it on different occasions. The only part of the freak-offs that she enjoyed are the times that she could spend with him. And I think that this is where the direct examination keeps bringing in text messages to show, like, there are times where she initiates a freak-off. And she's trying to explain, the only reason I initiated a freak-off is so that I could spend time with him alone. Yep. It was the only way that he would spend time with me alone. She says, as sad as it was, I felt like it was the only time I could get. She said, I definitely brought up not wanting to do freak-offs, but gently, because I didn't want to make him upset or angry with me for even sharing it, but I just treaded lightly when I would bring it up. Sometimes I would email him about it, like I didn't want to. I just didn't want anything to happen.
Leave me
when you
alone,
say you didn't
demons.
want anything bad to happen, what do you mean by that? Violent? But also him just being like, okay, well, I'll just find somebody else to do it with. Like, when you really care about somebody and you're in love with them, you don't want to disappoint them. So she keeps bringing this up throughout, like, the 10 hours.
Surprised.
She just keeps saying she never wanted him to feel embarrassed or, like, made fun of or insecure about his fantasies.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Witness 2 also testified he didn't like being looked in the eye. So it seems like, I don't know, there's like a lot of people have been psychoanalyzing some of the stuff. I don't think I'm qualified, but I will say it's probably very complicated. Some people are even speculating if there were any sort of childhood incidents that would have led to this. I've seen a lot of that online. I truly don't know. I don't know if any of that is going to be revealed during the next 7 weeks, but it is very interesting, I would say. As a result of freakoffs, what, if any, medical issues did you experience?
Okay.
I had a lot of stomach issues and like gastrointestinal issues from taking drugs. I also would get frequent UTIs, which are, I mean, if you had one, you know how painful it is.
Yeah, fuck
Just
that.
stopping you there, Miss Ventura. What does UTI stand for? Urinary tract infection. So how frequently did you get these UTIs? When we were having frequent freak-offs, it was sometimes like they were back to back. Sometimes I couldn't get rid of it, and
that's a nightmare.
I was actually doing the freak-off with an infection. She says it was very painful. It varied. I tried to flush it out, just drink tons of water, cranberry juice, cranberry pills. I got to the point where Cipro, I think it's like an antibacterial medicine that you take for UTIs. It didn't even work anymore. Yeah, it was just like a mess, like really painful for a long time. I actually can't believe that I actually dealt with that.
Yeah,
How did you feel to have sex while you had a UTI? I mean, horrible. It's the most uncomfortable burning. I wouldn't advise it. There's text messages entered into evidence where Combs is asking Cassie about her vocals, and she says, "They're good. I have all these sores on my tongue, so it's kind of uncomfortable, and I think I have another UTI. How's your day?" Cassie explains her text to the jury. She says, "Occasionally I would get sores on my tongue from the freak-offs, the taking drugs, substances, and just friction in my mouth." What was the friction in your mouth from? From oral activities, also having my mouth on things where there was oil and Astroglide and lubricants.
Fuck that.
How did the mouth sores you would get feel? Just stinging and uncomfortable. Combs texts Cassie back, "I'm good. Need you to go to the doc."
Literally a horror movie.
Like, energy or demeanor during this whole, or most of this.
I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she did it. I mean, I saw my sister when she was pregnant twice. The amount of just emotional turmoil she was in on a daily basis, because it's just science. Like, that's how the brain chemistry and like all these chemicals work inside the body, the hormones. I think, I don't know
back off.
Her voice was steady.
I don't have time to deal with you right now,
She didn't sound like she's overly trying to get sympathy. She didn't sound like, woe is me. She didn't sound angry. She just sounded like, I'm about to tell you guys genuinely how I felt, and that's all I can do at this point. Nugget. Like, that's the feeling I got. It didn't even feel like she was trying to convince the jury of one thing or another. It just felt like, I am going to answer the questions as honestly as possible. And there would be moments where she would be asked a question and she would start her answer, and then she would say, "I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?" And so I heard some people saying, maybe it's pregnancy brain, right? But when I was watching her answering a lot of these questions, it felt like she, in certain questions, maybe went back to that time period, and then I don't know if maybe she's having flashbacks. I mean, physically she doesn't look like, oh my God, I'm so traumatized. But it just was interesting. Like, it seemed like she was in the moment. There were also other times where, I don't know why this like made me so sad. She was talking about the Intercontinental Hotel and just how Sean was dragging her. The way she describes it is so emotionless and very like, it is what it is. Like, he was just dragging me and kicking me. Yeah. Like, it's very like, it is what it is. That is what happened. I would say there's a lot of times throughout where her voice shakes or she grabs a tissue, but there's twice when she gets very emotional. One is in the direct and one is actually in the cross, or like the redirect. But she said, I had PTSD episodes. I know Sean was concerned that I was having seizures, sleepwalking quite a bit. In my mind, my body was telling me that I needed to just chill out. Yeah. A text message thread from June 15, 2013 is entered into evidence. In it, Cassie texts Combs, "Your sex makes me high." No, like literally, I feel like I took a painkiller, LOL. During your relationship with Sean, who did you want to have intimate relations with? I wanted to have intimate relations with him. Did you want to have intimate relations with escorts? No. But after that, Combs responds back in the text. Dope. I was thinking about a freak off, but I need to be focused.
Gross.
She responds,
Okay, I'm just gonna
LOL.
move this one.
I've been thinking about one too. We were pretty focused last time. Just has to be the right people or person.
I feel like these texts obviously just prove exactly her story.
She never wanted him to think that she didn't want to do it. Approximately how many freak-offs in total did you have with Sean? It's impossible to know. Hundreds? She says that, yeah, the violence, the blackmail is also scary, but she just desperately wanted to be loved by him. She says her voice is relatively the same throughout the direct, like I said, but maybe it's the word that she uses, and I don't know if maybe I just like relate to it for some odd reason. She said, I really fell in love with him. I traveled with him everywhere.
I know.
I was in the
They'll
studio.
be fine.
I was just like a little shadow. Cassie says immediately on dating, Combs just starts ripping into her appearance. She says he would say anything from, I look too Mexican with my hair like that, to, I needed to have my nails done a certain way. I mean, he would clown my chipped nail polish and dirty sneakers. That was like a thing, but appearance was very important to him. My appearance, it varied on what he wanted me to dress like depending on what was going on. Some days he would want me to be really sexy and be his woman, and then other days, I could be on my tomboy looks and stuff like that, but he was very involved in it. You mentioned your nails earlier. How did Sean say he wanted your nails to look? He preferred them to be white. So I know some of you guys didn't get the context when I said Tenny Garagos, the lead defense attorney, had white nail polish on. And I do think that Nicole Westmoreland, if I'm not mistaken, either it's like a baby pink or it's white. They've got white nail polish. She says he preferred them being white from the beginning of our relationship. They just always had to be done for sure, but specifically during the freak-offs, like white or French tip.
All right,
In the lawsuit, she states that the white, he liked the contrast from
he's ruining white nails.
The black male body parts. What else, if anything, did Sean say he wanted you to do with your physical appearance? I mean, we had discussions about breast implants and just tons of conversations about my body. There'd be comments about working out or just like keeping my shape a certain way when there wasn't much there to begin with. So with her 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records, Cassie says, and this is clearly verifiable, she only releases one album, and even from a public perspective, her career, she was on a high with Me and You, and then she gets signed with Bad Boy Records. She says it feels intentional. She feels like every day she was just doing busy work that would keep her in the studio. She's making hundreds of songs. None of them are getting released. It's like he's stalling her career. He's making her full-time job freak-offs.
Hello.
She's saying music wouldn't come out, but also I would get a lot of opportunities that I would come through that I was told not to participate in, be it a modeling campaign, which was something that I actually did before music, or a runway show. Those are things I just had to say no to, and Sean advised her to say no. So this is just stalling her entire career. I mean, she's even asked very candidly in the direct, why did you not release another album during this time? And she just leans into the mic and she goes,
let's see.
You're asking me? Cassie testifies one of Combs' managers, who is also managing her, told her that he's managing her with one hand tied behind his back.
The manager couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah. So her whole life is just preparing for a freak-off, doing her nails, getting a wax, getting a tan, getting all the supplies, the baby oil, getting the hotel, finding the escort, making sure that Sean approves them, then participating in the freak-off, and then recovering from the freak-off. I mean, that's a whole week.
And this lasted like more than a decade.
Yeah.
And they're
mind you, this is exactly what sex trafficking looks like.
Seen all the time, but nobody knew for a decade.
There were actually like gossip columns that called her a gold digger. They made it seem like, oh, she was a aspiring musician, got with a billionaire, and then is now just living the good life. She said emotionally after the freak off, she would just feel really gross and really empty. And so she would just take lots of opioids because, quote, I didn't want to feel what was actually going on in my mind, in my real life, in real time. It was just an escape for me. And it's just crazy that she's on the stand testifying, and there would be, like I said, Combs would have different reactions. Sometimes he's like glasses on, staring at the evidence screen. Sometimes he's like jotting down like he's doing math homework. Sometimes he's just stoic like a statue, leaned back, watching her. Other times he's turning around and mouthing to his mom, I love you. Which, side note, Janice Combs has an intense vibe, like I said earlier. She's tiny, terrifying, but the whole time that Cassie is testifying, or a good chunk of it, she's leaning leaned forward, elbows on her knees, intently staring at Cassie, listening to every word.
That I just don't
and you know,
these.
I heard a lot of public say, like, I'm just saying, my mom, no matter how much she supports me, I don't think she could hear stuff like that. She would be crying. Something would happen. She can't just be like staring down the person on the stand. Cassie talks about how even on her birthday, he forced her into a freak-off, which she really begged not to, but it didn't work. And then there were other things that he forced her to do. There is about 10 minutes from the Las Vegas Strip, there's a very distinct green-hued building in a strip mall. It looks like it could be a PetSmart, but it's green, emerald green. It looks like an arcade. It's 18,000 square feet. Once you walk in, there's like a menu board. Sunday through Thursday, couples, $70. Weekends, $80. Single males, $92 to $120. Single females, $26. No open-toed shoes, no athletic wear. You must be 18 to enter. Once you get inside, there's like a few interesting rooms. The most interesting being called the shadow room, where you just see silhouettes of people moving and doing things. It is one of the older, more well-known sex clubs in Las Vegas called the Green Door. Cassie testifies that she was taken to these sex clubs, and sometimes they would bring escorts, and he would also watch at these clubs, and she just did not want to be there at all. Oh, and then another point that I thought was important was, this is what I mean by, I feel like she's candid. Like, I feel like she's trying to be very honest. There's this point where she talks about how one of the escorts, Jules, comes to the club with them, and she's asked, did you want to have intimate relations with Jules? And she said, no, not at the club, no. Did you want to have intimate relations with Jules ever? And she goes, no. And like, her laugh is kind of confusing at first, but then she explains, Jules, like, within all of it, was like a safe place. I saw him a lot. We actually had our own friendship. So being able to have intimate relations with Jules instead of somebody at the club was better than somebody I didn't know, if that makes sense. But I think the way like she even answers no, it's like when you talk about your best guy friend, it's like, oh, no. Like, whoa. It's like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
So it seems like she's like feeling a lot of the questions being asked instead of being like, no, yeah.
Dude,
and everything she said
like
makes sense, right? Like, I think if you have somewhat understanding of how these type of situation works, you can see how and why this happened.
Yeah, I think it's just complicated because there's so many elements. I think it's like everything is a building block. It's the age gap, it's when they met, it's the power dynamic. It's like everything is a building block, and when you only take out one building block and say, hey, look, it's like, obviously.
And I was even thinking, like, she started, they met 19, and then the freak-off started when she was 22, and then every single time she was completely drugged up for days on end.
Yes.
Just the drugs alone for days on end at that young age for that many years is already changing everything in her brain chemistry.
Yeah.
So just that alone, you cannot say that she is a person that can, make decisions on her free own will, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
I did see some comments echoing that sentiment. I saw a lot of people on Reddit talking about, technically they believe, right, and it's not really up to us, it's up to the jurors, but they believe that's like a good point for sex trafficking, because a lot of sex traffickers will actually get their victims addicted to drugs and make them feel like they need to take these drugs so that they can get through the forced work, the trafficking, if you will. So I think the drugs do play a big element into it. Again, we're not the ones, it's the jurors. She recounts the first time that he was ever violent with her. They were at a party. They were at this dinner with a lot of other people, and she had seen him flirting with somebody.
No.
And there was another person that looked at Cassie and was like, like they saw that she saw it, and she just shrugged her shoulders like, whatever, because what is she supposed to do? And when they get into the car, she says, quote, he knocked me around and was just really mean. His security driver was in the car too, but quote, he hit me in the side of my head and I fell to the floor of the car. We were in his Escalade, just shook me up and scared me quite a bit, to the point where I was just trying to get out of the car. I was just shocked. I didn't necessarily understand what happened and why he was so angry, except for the little bit he said he was like hitting me in the car, and I don't know, I just hid out at home after that. She also does recount there was a time that she did fight back. They were at an Ace of Diamonds club, and she remembers that
favorite gift, so you
they were
don't learn
leaving.
it
She had been
at
talking to a
first.
producer about music. He called her a bitch or something. They get in the car, and she punched him in the face. She had never hit him before. She said she punched him in the face. And she said she punched him as hard as she could punch him, basically. What was Sean's response after you hit him? His whole demeanor just switched over. I remember his eyes went black. It was just like we were in an Escalade, but the two sitting in the middle, the two seats that are separate from each other with the windows down, and we had a friend kind of like following us back to the house. So all of that went down with the windows down, and I punched him, he attacked me, and I was like basically underneath the back seat in the Escalade just trying to cover my face. And
Ooh,
Sean was
nice.
stomping on my face with his foot. How long did Sean stomp on your face with his foot? The ride back to the house was short, but I mean, the whole ride was a fight until we got there, probably like a 10-minute up the hill from the party. It was just me trying to defend myself and cover myself up. I was just being, I mean, I never experienced anything like that before, like getting that badly beaten. And for her to say that after the Intercontinental Hotel, like to say like she never had been that badly beaten, and we don't know.
See, I think these hearts were gonna pop out.
She says when they finally get to Sean's house,
info.
I just took off running. I started running down the street. But security catches up to her, brings
Like
her
when
back
you
to the
hover
house, and she looked in the mirror and
or
she
something,
said she
it'll
didn't
show
even
the actual
recognize
thing.
herself. Knots, bleeding, everything was swollen. She said, I just looked horrible. And then shortly after, Sean came in and he saw me. I think I was vomiting when he came in, and he kind of, like, that person was now gone, and it switched over, like, freaking out of sight. And he basically said I had to sneak out of the house, out of the back with the security, and go to a hotel and just stay there to recover.
Oh, that was the hiding in hotel
Yeah.
incident.
Yeah. The government also brings up another exhibit which shows Cassie's eyebrow being completely, I mean, it's a pretty bad wound. The cut looks pretty deep with shades of pink. So it's like pinky flesh, like different shades of pink
Wait, what do you mean? A picture of a close-up to
of her eyebrow. And there's like maybe,
Is this like a never-seen-before photo from?
yes. This is like so oddly specific. You know, like the USB-C, the silver part. So not the actual like plug-in, just the metal part that you stick into your iPhone.
Okay. Yes.
It's like a little bigger than that.
the
And
last
there's like pink flesh, and it's like slightly different colors of
Jealous.
pink. And then in the middle, it's almost like black. So it's a very deep wound. And it looks bad. And it's deep enough that she went to a plastic surgeon's office in Beverly Hills to suture it. And it's just evidence of one of the many violent fights that she had to endure during all of this. There were other times they were supposed to go to Canada. She was not packing. She had fallen asleep, and then he basically threw her and she hit her head on the bed frame. And when that picture is shown, Alex Fine, Cassie's husband, is looking and staring at the Combs family. And it's like, I think
those
I
will pop up
would
when
feel
you
the same
hover.
way of like, look at the picture. Like, look at what he did. Like, I want you to, I would imagine it would be like, look at what he did. And I want to see if this is normal to you. I would want to know their reaction of like, if you have no reaction, is it because this happens all the time? Is this what you guys are just used to? But what's crazy is that I looked over and it wasn't a member of the Combs family, but it was a friend of the Combs. And he's like asleep. I mean, like full, I'm talking like REM sleep.
Like head on the table type of sleep?
Yeah, he has like his elbow on the ledge of the pew, and like his face is resting on his hand, and his eyes are closed, and he was dozing off. And so I just imagine if Alex Fine is looking at that, I mean, yeah, I just imagine that's a lot of emotions. Cassie sends a picture of her eyebrow to Combs in a text message, which is also entered into the exhibit. But he responds, "You don't know when to stop. You have pushed it too far and continue to push. Sad." Cassie responds, "Just say sorry. Have some sympathy. I came in saying sorry and I didn't even know why I deserved that. You could care less if I was okay." She still has a permanent scar on her face from that, and she covers it with makeup. How many times has Sean been violent with you before? Who knows? And clearly, security for all these people working for Combs, according to Cassie, they knew. She says D-Rock, one of the security guys, he cried once when he saw her with a giant golf ball-sized knot on her forehead and black eyes. Cassie says Sean Combs even held one of her friends off of her 17th floor balcony, just like held her over the balcony. She says she saw it and said, "I saw him bring her back over the railing of the balcony and then throw her onto the patio furniture." Even Carrie Morgan, who is Cassie's best friend of 17 years, they got into an altercation. Sean Combs allegedly hit Carrie Morgan on the head with a wooden hanger, and Carrie Morgan and Cassie had a falling out because of that.
mean,
and so
that's
it's just
valid.
like
Valid to
Cassie's
fall out
testifying
over,
that
honestly.
everything in her life is controlled by him. He would rent her homes near his home. They would barge in anytime she's not answering the phone. It was just everything. If he was upset with her, he would take away her car. He would take away her jewelry, her gifts, which she doesn't even care about. She said it was just very random, but the worst thing that he took away was, quote, my self-confidence. I mean, just physical things are physical things, but at that point to me, the physical things didn't really matter. I really just wanted his approval. She said,
it's like how,
I mean, the
like,
greatest and most
in
complicated
general,
and greatest
horny they
examples
are as
the
a
abuse, because,
person.
like, I also felt at certain times when I knew that it wasn't even about me. And yeah, like, make the wrong face, and the next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face.
How much time we got left on this
It was
video?
like, you know, if I wasn't smiling at him the way he wanted, if I just
We'll let
looked
the
a
video
certain way
finish.
that he didn't like, maybe I was a brat or something, like, he would let me know I need to fix my face
8
or
minutes
watch my
left on the
mouth.
video, so we'll
That was
go
like,
slightly
those
over.
were the things that were said in our relationship quite often.
I might be
Fix your
slightly
face,
late
watch
today,
your
so
mouth,
it's okay.
or you have a slick mouth. Now, there was another exhibit that was entered in by the government, which is a text message between Sean Combs and Cassie, where he says he's just asking for another freak off. And Cassie responds, that is all we do, and I'm just getting back on track. I'm sure you can call Kim or something.
Oh, Kim Porter?
Yeah, so that was a moment where I feel like there was a lot insinuated, but not a lot proven or explained.
Uh-huh. Oh, they didn't dive more into it.
Yeah, we'll watch the
She said,
TikTok
"I'm
on
sure you
Teddy's
can call
stream.
Kim or something."
It should be easy
And we
enough.
don't know what Sean said. Okay.
I mean, I think he just bypassed it.
Nah, I promise you guys I'd watch it. It's
But
really short.
Like I'm
so
saying,
we'll just watch it.
there was not a lot confirmed
watch
in the
it.
sense of like, okay, there were allegations by certain bodyguards and people that were speaking out to the media that were inside sources and close sources of the Combs family and team. And they had mentioned that perhaps Kim was also part, whether willing or unwilling, to these activities. So that text message was interesting. But eventually, August of 2018, the two finally do break up. Cassie just couldn't do it anymore, and they finally have a closure dinner in Malibu. Cassie was already seeing her husband at the time, Alex. They were no longer dating, her and Sean. This was just closure, and it was nice. She said he was just being really nice, playful, laughing, kind of romantic vibes, sort of, but we were just normal, laughing. It ended with him bringing me home, and
Oops.
yeah, that was it. We went inside, went in the living room. He came in, pretty usual, nothing weird, and then he raped me in my living room floor.
I feel so bad for her.
How did you physically react when Combs raped you? I just remember crying and saying no, but it was very fast, so. What, if anything, did you observe about Sean's physical appearance? Just like black eyes. I kind of said that before, just wasn't himself. The laughing and like all the things that were happening before that was not there, and it was just like somebody taking something from you just without. You said that you cried. What did he do when you cried? He continued. I don't even know if he noticed, honestly. He continued, finished, and then he got up and left. After the R word in your living room, were you intimate with Sean again? I was, once more, but by choice. Can you explain to the jury why you agreed to see him again after the assault?
Yeah,
We've
that's
been
really
together
common,
for
by
over
the
10
way.
years. Like, you don't just turn feelings off that way. We were very connected at that point still. I still had good
Straight
vision
line.
of who he was as a person. Like, I didn't hate him. March 1st, 2019, so a few months afterwards, Combs texts Cassie, I'll pull up and handle it face to face, no threat, facts, and you will not be threatening me. You have too many iPads full of skeletons. If I was you, I would get me my money, because we both have better things to do with our lives. I really don't want no problems. I got it from here. I tried. Cassie is explaining that Sean wants his money back since the man that Cassie moves on with, her now husband, Alex Fine, was the personal trainer that Diddy had hired for her. So I guess he had paid her for sessions, and then they started having a relationship, so he didn't like that. He wanted the money.
What money?
I guess that he had paid Alex Fine for the personal training sessions. At this point, like, Combs, his glasses
okay?
on,
Yeah,
face
I'm
all
okay.
close to the evidence screen, intently reading.
I'm just
Cassie
trying to think of
responds,
how to draw this.
Do you want me to tell the truth? It's way deeper than iPads. This is her text message. They talk on and off here and there, but not much. But in 2023, Cassie talks about how she goes to rehab. She says, I was spinning out, and I didn't want to be alive anymore at that point. So this is where she gets incredibly emotional. I was actually shooting a music video with another artist, and I just kept having these horrible flashbacks. And after the video shoot, I went home, and it was like super, super late, and my kids were asleep. My husband was there, and I just remember telling him, like, you can do this without me. Like, you don't need me here anymore, right? And, like, while she's explaining this, Combs is just elbow on his chair, kind of touching his chin. Cassie takes a moment and then continues, I couldn't take the pain that I was in anymore, so I just tried to walk out the front door into oncoming traffic, and my husband would not let me. So she goes to rehab, and it's in rehab as a way of dealing with her trauma. She tries to write a book. Not like a book that she's trying to publish, but it's like a book format, like a journal. She just wanted to deliver it to Combs, and she did. She sent it to him. She said, I really wanted Sean to read the information. I wanted him to understand what I had to learn to understand over that period. Why did you want Sean to read the book? Because I don't think that he understood. I don't think after all those years of begging for like sorries and just for him to actually recognize the pain that he put me through, like I just wanted him to understand. I think bigger, more than anything, it was his own personal shame in I'm having to carry the things that were shameful to him. What were those things?
She is explaining the Diddy
like,
trial.
I took on a lot of the responsibility of that I never should have. He brought the concept to me when I was 22, and I would do absolutely anything for him, and I did.
So,
and it never stopped
off.
our whole relationship, and it was expected of me, and it made me feel horrible about myself, and I couldn't get it out. I couldn't face him with it. I was always so numb because that's what I chose to do to get through it. Cassie tries to get Combs the book. Eventually, Combs' assistant, Christina Courtroom, I think that she's going to testify. I'm going to be so real. I think so. But she gets back to Cassie and is like, yeah, no one's really taking it seriously. I don't even know if he's going to read it. So the prosecutor asks, so other than wanting Sean to read your book, what else, if anything, did you want from Sean? I wanted to be compensated for the time, the pain, and like the many, many years of trying to have to fix my life. What, if any, price did you have for the rights of your book? $30 million. Can you explain to the jury how you came up with that figure? I really didn't do any research. I just picked a number that I felt like would alert him. November of 2023, Cassie files a lawsuit against Combs, and within 24 hours, she settles for $20 million. This was speculated but confirmed during her testimony. She has no more pending lawsuits actively against Combs or anyone else relating to her relationship with Combs, at least as of the day of testifying. However, in the next episode, a huge topic of conversation is that it appears that maybe a pending lawsuit had wrapped up within the past month. Without telling me about any discussions with your lawyers, why are you testifying at this trial? I can't carry this anymore. I can't carry the shame, the guilt, the way I was guided to treat people like they were disposable. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and I'm here to do the right thing. And with that, we're going to head into part 2 of Cassie's cross-examination, part 2 of her testimony, where there were a lot of audible gasps at one point in the courtroom. There were a lot of intense moments, and I think that episode ties into, I guess, like the crazy polarization that's happening on the internet. It seems like every time I go on the internet, everybody is so divided. So stay tuned, and I will see you in the next one.
Thank you, Queen. All right. Back over here. So, let's turn off my iPad for now. Let me get the short here really fast so you guys can see a little bit of this update here. It's gonna be weird on the screen because I don't have it really set up for shorts, but we're gonna try our best here. Yeah, it's gonna look like that, so bear with me here. All right, here we go.
I just got home from court, and Diddy might get kicked out and banned from attending his own trial because he keeps interacting with the jury, and I think I have notes on the exact moment that the judge caught it. Which, side note, I do feel like Diddy has been very interactive with lots of people in the courtroom. He will do his hand hearts towards the public section. On 2 separate occasions, like 2 separate weeks, there were times where Diddy would turn to, I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's my researcher or someone behind me, like someone in the press pews in that general vicinity, and he mouthed, I know you, twice. So there's been lots of interactions, but now he's interacting with the jury, and the judge is not
having any of this. This is right before the lunch break and all the jurors are out of the room. The judge directly is talking to Diddy's attorney in front of Diddy, but just like acting like Diddy's not there. And he says, and I'm gonna read this directly so I don't misstate anything. I was very clear this morning that there were not to be any facial expressions, other attempts to have any interaction with the jury whatsoever, any influence on the jury whatsoever, and I could not have been clearer in terms of what I said. You heard me, right? The defense counsel says, I did. Well, there was a line of questioning where your client was nodding vigorously and looking at the jury. There was a subsequent moment we had a sidebar and I looked and I saw your client looking at the jury and nodding vigorously during that line of questioning. That is absolutely unacceptable.
So
is it going to happen again, Mr. Agnifilo? He responds, it's not going to happen again, Judge. And the judge is still like not having it. He says it cannot happen again. If it happens again, if it happens even once,
I'm so happy.
I will hear an application from the government to give a
out.
curative instruction to the jury, which you do not want, or I will consider taking further measures which could result in the exclusion of your client from the courtroom, aka we're gonna ban him from the courtroom because he keeps trying to interact with the jury. And so he's saying that he saw Diddy nodding at the jury vigorously earlier that day. So I'm like, okay, vigorously is a very specific word. It's not just nodding, it's like vigorous nodding. So I was going through my notes and trying to see if I could pinpoint the exact moment the judge saw it. I think I do.
Funny.
Okay, so this was right before lunch break.
I was wondering how he was getting away with that,
the
honestly.
defense counsel, they're cross-examining one of Cassie's friends who is saying that Diddy was assaulting her at this time period. Defense counsel is saying, there's no way he was assaulting you because here's a picture of him not in town during that time period, so how could he be there assaulting you if he was not there? And at this point, I write down, defendant turns towards the jurors, head up and down, super dramatic, as if listening to music. So a lot of times his nods are like this. Like, yeah, that's right. Like, that's the nod. That's
like
the vibe
he's
it
so
gives.
transparent.
With this one, it was like
I don't know
like,
how he thinks he's gonna get away with this when he's acting like this. Like, you can't just
it
intimidate
was
the jury.
Vigorous. That's
you
the best way
can't
to put it.
do
I think
that.
that was the moment. I just got home from court and Diddy might get kicked.
That's it. That's the update. Okay. Okay, chat. Well, I will now be taking a bit of a break, and then I will be swapping over to my VTubers channel. So if you want to keep hanging out with me today, let me get you a link here to her stream, and then you can hang out on that stream. All right? Okay, here's a link. Go hang out with her next. Okay, RK, I'll be back on her channel in like 30 minutes. We're gonna swap over to drawing some fan art, just art of her. So yeah, if you want to hang out with me though, and you don't want to hang out with my VTuber, I'll be live later on Twitch at 5:30. I'll also be live on Fansly. Check for info about that. If you follow me on Fansly, you'll get a DM about it. You'll get that probably in between the Teddy stream and that stream. So, all right. I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay? Mwah. Enjoy the little break. Go get a snack or something. Okay? See you on Teddy's stream. Bye! See you next Friday on here. All right, same time. Bye!